Three, two, and one. What up? What up? What up? Welcome to another episode of the Sports PSP podcast, the highlight of Friday nights. I am your host, Sports PSP. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope everyone's enjoying a fantastic day, coming off work, school, whatever the case may be. I have my panel real quick. BRF had to take care of something real quick, real second. Some technical issues, but we'll see what we can do to get him back on the pod. But of course, I cannot do the Sports PSP podcast without my main. Oh, here we go.
There we
We
go.
got him
Okay,
in the building. Sorry
here we
about that,
go.
folks. But of course, hold on, big fella. I'm gonna save you the best for last. But I got my one half of the panel. He is Mr. Atlanta. He is everything that represents ATL, Atlanta, Braves, Falcons, Hawks, all in all Atlanta. He is one half a Georgia Bulldogs fan. He is a girl dad. He is everything and then some. He knows his football. He knows his basketball. He knows his business. He knows everything. Mr. ATL, BRF Sports. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Just enjoying life. So I'm just enjoying life so far. Another week of work done. Ready for the weekend. Ready for the football. Ready to chop it up with my two main brothers. So I'm ready to get after it.
Absolutely. And of course, we cannot do the Sports PSP podcast without my main man, all the way from Columbus, Georgia. He is the four-time college degree champion. He is our military man and veteran. He is the Al Roker of journalism. He is the young Charles Barkley. He's like the little brother of Mark Henry. He is all that in a bag of chips. He is the epitome of Southern hospitality. To the ladies, he's the love chocolate. I mean, just as Nessa, JoJo, and D for an example. He is he is everything and then. He is the black Peter Griffin. He is the black Eric Cartman. He's like the younger Bruce. Mama Champ's number one favorite son. Undisputed world champ. How you doing, big fella?
I'm good, man. I'm great. Not gonna get a better introduction than that, man. Look, PSP, thank you for always inviting me to the Sports PSP podcast, man. Always a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor to be on there, man. And I'm just happy to be here, man. And look, I will say one thing, man. I know it's basketball season tonight. Klay Thompson, I'm very jealous, dog. I'm just gonna say that out loud. I'm very jealous, dog. I'm just being real. That was
You already have Maga the Stallion. You
yeah.
already got Nikita
So
Lines.
yeah. So Klay, I'm jealous, man. Good job, bro.
BRF is having some technical difficulties. Like I said, don't worry, we'll try to get him back on the pod momentarily. But appreciate everyone for always checking in on the Sports PSP podcast. And man, just thank y'all. Already over 132,000 subscribers. You know, we are going to continue to do whatever we can to make sure y'all are entertained. Y'all have a show. So, man, I am happy that we on the Sports PSP podcast. Like I said, BRF will be back. We'll try to get him back momentarily. But big fella, there's a lot of stuff regarding the NBA, man, that we got to discuss. This whole gambling situation. Three people have been arrested, noticeable people. Damon Jones, Terry Rozier, and Chauncey Billups. Regarding the whole gambling situation. And big fella, I gotta be honest with you, man. This is some crazy stuff that we are hearing. What are your thoughts about the whole gambling thing?
Number one, I think, look, this is something that we've seen before in regards to sports, man. We've seen this type of thing before. I think this is the first time that we've seen it in the social media era. That's why everybody's just so shocked at this moment. Look, we saw the Red Sox gambling scandal back in, the early 1900s with Shoeless Joe Jackson and the Chicago Black Sox. We saw that scandal. Remember when they had to be taken to court, and remember the world famous "Say it ain't so, Joe." We saw that in baseball. We saw the Boston College gambling scandal back when Henry Hill, for those of you who don't know who Henry Hill is the guy from the Goodfellas. We saw the Boston College gambling scandal, which saw the ratings just essentially drop in college basketball up until Bird and Magic was able to revive it. We saw Tim Donahoe, the referee who got indicted in cheating. We've seen many examples of this, but this is the first time we've seen it in the modern day social media era. And this is the first time in years that I've heard the five families of New York being mentioned. You know, when you talk about the La Costa Nostra, when you talk about the Gambino family, the Lucchese family, and all of those families being involved, that's the first time I've heard them being involved in these cases, especially when you talk about Chauncey Billups and the poker game scandal. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this turns out. And the Terry Rozier situation it speaks for itself. It pretty much speaks for itself. And the fact
Damon
that
Jones, did you hear the thing with Damon Jones from The Athletic that before a Milwaukee Bucks Lakers game back in February 2023, he heard that LeBron was going to be ruled out due to ankle soreness, but allegedly, according to the report from The Athletic, he informed others bet on Milwaukee.
Yeah, when you got inside information, you know you're going to use it. And look, I'm going to just be real. It's really, really looking bad. But the thing is, look, when we think it's bad, it ends up being like a blimp on the map. Everybody swore that the Boston college basketball scandal was going to be the end of college basketball as we know it. Come to find out, it was a blip on the map. Everybody thought that Michael Jordan, him being caught up in gambling allegations, was going to kill the NBA. Come to find out, it was a blimp on the map. And everybody thought that, you know, Tim Donahoe, when he did his thing, they thought he was going to be the end of the NBA. It was just a blip on the map. And this isn't the first time we've seen somebody in recent memory be under scrutiny for gambling. Remember,
Jonte Porter.
I know BRF remember this. Remember Calvin Ridley? He gambled on FanDuel for $1,200 and got suspended for the entire year.
Let's not forget, what about the wide receiver from the Detroit Lions champ? I think it was Jameson Williams.
Yes, he got suspended for some time. Look,
let's not forget Jonte Porter from last year. He's banned from the NBA for life.
Yes. Like I said, we saw Jonte Porter, we saw Shoeless Joe Jackson, we saw Tim Donahoe, we saw the Boston College point shaving scandal. Let's not forget, for those of you who can remember who are 90s kids, let's not forget the Arizona State scandal with the point shaving scandal with Stephen Headache Smith. Stephen Headache Smith. So we've seen scandals all over the place as far as gambling is concerned. But this is the first time we're seeing it in the social media era. That's how come we're so shocked. And the thing is, the difference from back then, where it's to now, is this. I'm going to just be real. A lot of times, they have no reason to gamble now. With the Shoeless Joe Jackson situation, you can say, yes, that dishonors the game and things of that nature. But back then, Shoeless Joe Jackson was the best player in the MLB. And they refused to increase his salary. He was only making $6,000 a year back then. Granted, there was a lot of money back then, but compared to what they state that he got from the mob and, you know, the point shavers, that was peanuts to what he was being paid. When you think about, you know, Stephen Headache Smith and what he was getting, there was no NIL back when Stephen Headache Smith was playing. No NIL, no, you know, real way to make money back then. So although you condemn it, you could pretty much say, okay, you know, I get it. But now hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts are being paid. So you're like, why would you gamble and risk giving that away? That's what you ask, especially when you think about Terry Rozier, who is, to my knowledge, he's an all-star. I mean, he's going to get, you know, has the capability of getting a max contract. So
he's under the final year of his 4-year, $96 million contract with Miami.
There you go. So, you know, really, there's no incentive for you to gamble unless you in real bad with the Sharks at a certain point. And if that's the case, then you got to ask yourself, what did you do in order to get in real bad with them at a certain point? You know, but This gambling scandal is nothing new. Everybody thinks it's going to be a black mark on the league. Like I stated, we've seen scandals before, and it really comes to find out to be a real blip on the radar. I don't think that anything can take away from this exciting week of basketball that we're seeing thus far. We may very well be seeing the end of the process with Joel Embiid as we know it. We may be on the cusp of seeing something special happen in San Antonio. We can see a lot of
OKC.
things. You see OKC. I mean, Steph Curry, he's lighting it up like a Christmas tree in December at this point in time. The Golden State Warriors are looking like they're back at this point. I don't think there's anything that that could happen other than just them coming out and saying, "Hey, more than instead of other than it just being exposed that the NBA is more the WWE than real competition." I don't think anything can spoil how big this week has been for the league at a certain point. And yes, Dwayne, I did hear about Sonny Liston being a boxer and being in the mob. Yes, I heard about that. There was a long-standing rumor. In fact, he passed away in Las Vegas of mysterious causes. So he wasn't the first boxer to be rumored to be within the mob. Rocky Marciano was rumored to be in the mob as well. There's a lot of rumors about major sports figures being involved with the mob. Hell, Joe Namath, they had to close down his bar in New York because he was involved with a crime family, and I think he was partners with them in a bar or something of that nature, I believe. And the NFL wanted him to close that bar because they didn't like the crime figures that was in there. I forget what crime family that it was, but I think he was partners in a bar, and a lot of the crime figures frequented that bar. So this isn't the first time we're seeing or hearing about organized crime, especially when you talk about the Gambino and Lucchese family and the La Costa Nostra being involved in sports betting and gambling. It's really no shock, because the thing is, people don't like to acknowledge this, but a gangster invented gambling in Las Vegas. It was a gangster by the name of Bugsy Siegel, aka Beanie Siegel, not the rapper. Look up Beanie Siegel for those who are out there in the audience. He practically invented legalized gambling. So it came from, they want you to believe that the corporations invented it, but in fact, it was organized crime. The lottery was invented by organized crime. So much stuff that we view today as luxury and being able to have fun, a lot of this stemmed from organized crime. The music industry, a lot of things from the music industry. The music industry started in the speakeasies during the Prohibition, was sponsored by organized crime. If you look on the back of a lot of rap album cover, you'll see a lot of stick-up kids and a lot of known distributor that was known for organized crime. So this is not the first time or the last time we're going to see sports figures involved with members of organized crime. Remember, the greatest of all time, Michael Jordan, was involved with Sim Buller, who was involved in organized crime as well, who was involved in the money laundering scandal. So this is not the first or the last time we're going to see anything like this. It's not going to be a black eye on the league. The league is too big for it. And guess what? It's going to be a blip on the map at the end of the day, unless it comes out that, hey, everything is rigged, predetermined, or what have you, which I doubt it at a certain point. Now, a lot of these referees can probably dispute that, considering some of the calls that they make during the course of the game. But unless something comes out like that and that being exposed, I doubt this probably going to end up being a blip on the map. We'll forget it by next week.
Here's my thing, champ, regarding the whole thing. Okay, it says right here, 6 defendants accused of participating in a sports corruption scheme that exploited insider information involving NBA players and teams. The defendants leveraged their connections to place profits based on confidential insider information, winning tens of thousands of dollars per bet. The second indictment involves 31 defendants charged with participating in a nationwide scheme to risk illegal poker games. FBI says they use high-tech cheating technology to steal millions of dollars from victims in underground poker games that were secretly fixed. I mentioned the report from The Athletic. This is going back to March 23rd, 2003. The FBI said that NBA player Terry Rozier told the defendants that he was going to leave the game early on March 23rd, 2003, with an injury. The defendants then placed more than $200,000 of wagers on the unders for his profit. With Rozier leaving the game after 9 minutes, those bets paid are tens of thousands of dollars in profit, and the defendants and Rozier counted the money at his house. So, and also too, regarding the technology, the FBI also says that the defendants utilized other cheating technologies, including poker chip trays that read cards through hidden cameras, special contact lenses, and glasses that could read marked cards, and X-ray poker tables that could read cards face down.
Mm.
So, and also too, the FBI says that the defendants robbed a victim at gunpoint to acquire a rigged shuffling machine. Now, look, we're not going to say anyone is innocent or guilty, champ. We still got to wait for all the facts to come out. However, when you hear that the FBI and the mafia being involved, it's hard to believe they're fabricating. There has to be conclusive evidence to prove all these claims. Here's the other problem that I have, champ. And I was listening to Shaq because he talked about it on, obviously now with Shaq, Chuck, Kenny, Charles. Now they're with ESPN. ESPN picked up Inside the NBA. My thing is, considering Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier, you have enough money compared to the average Joe like you and I. Why are you involved in this type of situation? Again, it's allegedly. We don't know whether if it's true or not. Why is your name being involved in this type of situation? Considering the amount of money. Like I said, champ, Terry Rozier is under the final year of his 4-year, $96 million deal. And this is a horrible look for Chauncey Billups. Given the amount of money you've made through your NBA career, I mean, in 2024, you were inducted to the Naismith Hall of Fame, and you're the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers that now placed on administrative leave. Tiago Splitter, the interim head coach, will be the head coach, and I think he may be the head coach for the remainder of the season until the Portland Trail Blazers find somebody else, or Tiago Splitter has done a damn good job. Now, Tiago Splitter, to his credit, he's been around Coach Popovich, the San Antonio Spurs organization. Maybe he's learned a thing or two from the Spurs organization. Who knows? Maybe he can use that and work in Portland. But it's hard to believe that, you know what, with the mafia and the feds involved, champ, it's hard to believe that they're fabricating all this type of stuff. And the other thing, it does kind of make me wonder, Gilbert Arenas, was he involved by informing the FBI and the feds? Because remember, months ago, he was arrested.
I'm sorry for laughing.
I'm sorry.
No, because the reason why I'm laughing is because, did you see his post early?
Yes.
The special informant lunch. You know, for those of you who watch First 48, the first thing they do, they give you that big old Popeyes meal, and then I mean, I don't know. Like I stated, you know, each one of those individuals, they bailed out within hours of their arrest. So I mean, you kind of wonder how long of a statement that you had. They was arrested earlier that morning. By that afternoon, they was out. So you got to ask yourself, how long of a window do you have in order to make a statement? But yeah, I don't know if that's involved with Gilbert Arenas. I know Gilbert is the ultimate troll. I mean, that was the ultimate troll, man. Pulling out the special informant meal. But I don't know. I mean, like I stated, I believe this is going to be a blip on the radar for the NBA, man. Like I stated, we've seen so many sports scandals before involving gambling and betting. And, you know, like I stated, the greatest of all time was involved in a gambling scandal. And that got swept up under the rug. The real reason why we're paying so much attention right about now is because it's the social media area. It's the social media era.
It
Like I
is
said,
social media, champ, but also too it's pretty prevalent because you're seeing it nowadays with a lot of these NBA players, former ones. Let's not forget, even though it has nothing to do with the mafia in his situation, but Kevin Garnett. Then let's not forget Jonte Porter. Also, let's not forget Big Baby Davis.
yeah, look, there's nothing new to see these young men. Look, they do this stuff. I'm gonna just be real. Let's just be very, very honest. A lot of these guys go to these high stakes poker games, and because they do it on the plane, they're doing it on the plane. I don't know if anybody ever seen that documentary broke that was on ESPN 30 for 30. There was a lot of guys that do this stuff as far as doing high stakes poker games. They do it at their houses. They have these big poker parties. They have these big things. So the thing is, if you want to pull the innocent to prove the guilty card, you can probably know nothing about it because you're thinking, hey man, we finna go over here, we finna fry some fish, we finna play some poker, we finna have some fun. I don't know whose house I'm finna go over, but look, let's just go over here on a Friday night and have fun. You could very well know nothing about it. There's nothing new about seeing these guys in high stakes poker game. Remember the Last Dance documentary. Remember, I never forget Judge Buchler. Either him, no, John Paxson. Never forget John Paxson said, "Look, me, Steve Kerr, Judd, we played in the front of the plane for $1 a hand." He said we would not dare go back there with Ron Harper, Dennis Rodman, and Scottie Pippen because it's just way too much money in the back of the plane. It's just it's gambling as far as playing cards and stuff like that. It's a hobby for some of these guys. You know, they got so much money, you know, $100,000 is nothing. Remember, like I said, Michael Jordan, one of the greatest of all time, he gambled. Remember, Evander Holyfield, he loved playing blackjack. I never forget when he got his first deal at Caesar's Palace when he fought against Larry Holmes. I think his manager, Shelly Finkel. I remember they said, hey, his bonus was $1 million. They asked him, would you like $1 million of that in chips? And Shelly Finkel, so he wouldn't spend it, said, no, thank you. We're not getting that in chips. So a lot of these gambling as
Same Shelly Finkel who was Mike Tyson's manager?
Yes, he's the same. Yeah. Shelly Finkel managed so many great boxers. He managed Oscar De La Hoya when he first got started. He managed Evander Holyfield. He managed Mike Tyson late in his career. Shelly Finkel was the man. So I'm going to just be real. This, as far as the poker games, you can almost say, okay, it could have been something that they really didn't know about because they're so used to doing it on the plane. They're so used to doing it, going over each other's house, having a fish fry, playing poker, and, you know, playing card games and stuff like that. They could very well have known diddly about the situation. As far as Terry Rozier, you knew everything darn well about what you were doing. That's how come it's harder in order to allegedly give him the benefit of the doubt because you have the evidence there. But for Chauncey and the guys who are doing the poker games, you could very well, hey, man, you want to come over here and gamble? It's kind of like, it's no different than, I will say this. You going over somebody's house to gamble because people think it's a poor man, it's a rich man game. But, you know, us middle-class guys do it too. You'd be surprised how many guys go over there and say, hey, man, I done paid all my bills, my children straight. Let me go over here with this $100. Let's go to my homeboy house. We finna break out the poker chips tonight. Or we finna break out the dominoes tonight. We finna gamble. So you could very well have known nothing about the situation other than, look, man, I'm just finna go over this person's house at this mansion. They got the ladies over here. They got the music bumping. They frying fish. They cooking. And we finna just go play some poker. You could very well have known nothing about it. But like I stated, they used to do, a lot of these guys do that on the plane. They did it during their playing career. They've had these games at their house. Remember on MTV Cribs, Von Miller showed us that he had a poker table in his house.
Right, like because a lot of them they rather do it in planes and hostess or somewhere private so that they don't want to be exposed. Yeah. Also, too, champ Mike Bass, the spokesman of the NBA, he said any assertion that the NBA had anything to do with Terry Rozier not playing games following his departure from the game on March 23rd, 2023 is categorically false. According to per team doctors, Rozier had a real foot injury confirmed with an MRI. So I
So
don't
there
know.
you go.
This is a statement from the NBA spokesman, but champ, this is still a horrible look. And the thing I question is with the NBA, considering this controversy, do you think this may be a way for the NBA to get people entertained with the NBA? Maybe watch the games? Because again, we talk about controversy. Does controversy sell? Instead, I mean, you get tired of it with the WNBA, especially when it comes to Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark going back and forth. And I feel like it does a disservice to the rest of the WNBA because rather focusing on the other players, whether Nafisa Collier, Asia Wilson, all the other great players that we have in the WNBA, we pay attention more to controversy. So with this right here, and it's shocking, champ, because this is at the time of the NBA season opener. Back-to-back double overtime games from the Oklahoma City Thunder with historic performances by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 35 points, then a 55-point performance against the Indiana Pacers, the rematch of the NBA Finals. Victor Wembanyama scoring 40 and 15. Ant-Man, Edwards scoring 41 points. Do you think with this type of controversy, do you think this could actually help out the NBA champ, as crazy as that sounds?
It actually could, to be honest with you. I'm just gonna be very, very brutally honest with you. Because people are gonna be intrigued. Man, look. The reason why they brought in sports gambling is to add excitement to the league. Nothing more, nothing less. It's a ratings ploy. You gotta add the thrill to it. You getting FanDuel and betting on Anthony Edwards to score 55 points when you only got $100 and you trying to flip that into $1,000, that's what adds excitement to the game. It what attracts viewers. That is why the NBA and every other sporting league is in bed with these gambling companies. That is why. Nothing more, nothing less. They won't get paid. They're trying to add more sport to they're trying to add more thrill to the sport. Especially now around this time. Right now around this time, look, you got the World Series. Everybody's watching that. You got the middle of football season. Everybody's watching that. You got all these little shows coming out because the fall time getting ready to show. Getting ready to, it's fall right about now. Everybody watching that. It's garbage time in the NBA. There's no narrative at this point. It's not like the W where you could get a narrative in a week and then you can carry it over. You need narrative during this time. So what other better narrative than the NBA have than FanDuel and you bet than being in bed with some of these gambling companies? And guess what? You have your FanDuel account trying to watch the Boston Celtics take on the New York Knicks and see is who is going to get your parlay going to hit tonight. That is why these companies are in bed with these sports gambling companies. Now, the reason why these gamblers are getting caught and getting busted because of one thing and one thing only: money. You ain't paying no taxes on that. That's just the long and short of it. You're not paying taxes on them wages and them high stakes poker games. That's just what that is. Let's just call it what we see it. You're not paying taxes. It's illegal, and you don't have a license. But they want their taxes money. So Uncle Sam is going to get his one way or another. Whether you can give it to him or he can come get it. So, and if he has to come get it, he's going to take you with him. So there's a lot to be desired when it comes to this information that's coming out. But the thing is, the reason why a lot of these companies, a lot of these sports are in bed with these gambling companies is because it
And you find it
adds
shocking, champ?
intrigue. Huh?
Don't you find it kind of shocking, champ? I'm glad you mentioned it when ESPN, how they took out the ESPN Bet app, the logo, while they were doing Get Up.
Again, you can look. I'm gonna just be real. I don't know why ESPN did that because look, I hadn't did anything. It's kind of like you trying to run to your room and your little brother got in trouble. Why are you running? What'd you do? Were you involved with this? That's the thing. You didn't have to do any of that because guess what? It's not Stephen A at ESPN telling you what the script is for the day. It's the NBA players. So I don't understand why ESPN did that for whatever reason. That was kind of iffy if you really want me to be honest with you. But I'm going to just be real. I mean, bad publicity always brings moral high ground out all of a sudden, I would say. Now, because we in week 8 of the NFL season right about now, you ain't take that sign off not one time. You ain't had nothing to say about gambling not one time. In fact, you have a show telling people who to bet on. You have a show telling people who to bet on.
And
So
on
yes,
and on top of that, Jeff, was also so ironic.
yeah,
College athletes, from starting from November, they can place bets on pro games.
and that is another reason why I am so against that with college athletes. That's how I'm so against that. And another thing I would say, look, a lot of times, a lot of things that's put in front of you doesn't necessarily mean you need to do it. You don't necessarily mean to do it because the thing is this: you got to think about this right here. A lot of these athletes go broke because they're gambling. They're doing a lot of stuff they ain't really got no business. They're making bad investments. They're doing a lot of stuff that they don't really need to be doing. And look, you saw Antoine Walker, how he had a gambling problem. You saw Allen Iverson, he had gambling problems. You saw Michael Jordan, he had gambling problems. Don't let the fact that something is right in front of you put you in a bad position. And another thing, I would say this: that's a bad look to give these young kids the power to bet. Because the thing is, imagine this. Imagine I'm in bad with the Sharks. The Sharks need $100,000. But my homeboy in the NFL, he a quarterback. He owed me a favor. Hey, bro, I need you to throw 2 interceptions today. I'm just being serious.
No,
People,
you're not. I know you're not
it
joking,
sounds
Jim. I mean, you're
far-fetched.
making sense.
It sounds far-fetched, but hey, if I don't want nothing to happen to my guy because he in bad with somebody he wasn't supposed to be dealing with in the first place, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna throw them 2 interceptions. Hey man, look, pay these folks off. Or I'm gonna give them the money to pay it. But the thing is, they don't want just the money, they want an outcome so they can make everybody some money. You see? So that's the thing. And the thing is, not just one of your partners, Mr. Watson, what's going on? Not just one of your partners. Can you imagine if a coach gets in bad with somebody he really wasn't supposed to be involved with? Imagine, this is just hypothetically speaking. Imagine Bobby Petrino calling, one of his players up in the NFL. Hey man, I'm in bad with somebody. I need you to throw this interception. Otherwise, it's gonna end bad for me. Who's
But
gonna
the
say Who's
but the
going to say no to a coach who's been like a father figure to you? Who's going to say no to a running backs coach that has been like a father figure to you? Who's going to say no to the trainer that you know his life is in danger?
but
That's
big fella,
like a
but
brother
big
to
fella,
you.
we all know that. But the thing is, if you're Chauncey and Terry, considering the amount of money that you've made, and Chauncey, for you as the head coach to be involved in a situation like this, to say that is embarrassing, champ, would be an understatement. And plus, the younger players, how they gonna look at you when their head coach is involved in a situation like this?
Again, a lot of people think this, and I'm going to just clear this up. A lot of these young men and old men, because it ain't just young men gambling, it's old men gambling too. They don't gamble for the money. You gamble for the thrill. You don't gamble because I just need money. Because 9 times out of 10, I'm just gonna be real. I used to gamble. I'm just gonna put it out there. I used to gamble. I stopped because Mama Champ told me to stop gambling, and I stopped. So you gamble for the thrill. You gamble for the chase. It's like certain things in this world. If you get where I'm going, I'm trying to keep it clean. It's like certain things in this world that takes you to a different level of nostalgia, and it adds that extra rush to your favorite team. Okay, hypothetically speaking, your Commanders playing my Atlanta Falcons. Ain't nobody injured, ain't nobody hurt. And I put, let's say, $1,000 on it. My bills already paid, my car note paid, house full of groceries, everybody squared away. This is just a little extra money that I got. Can you imagine the thrill and the exhilaration that it gives you, knowing that your team won. It's so much uncertainty about gambling. As far as, especially in the NFL, especially in the NBA, you don't know who's going to get hot. You don't know who's going to get cold. You don't know who's going to have that one big day, that historic day. And you don't know what you're going to be able to put on that parlay or that marker in order to just make you thousands, maybe even a millionaire. People don't gamble for the money. You gamble for the thrill. 9 times out of 10, when you're gambling, if you're responsible, you've already paid your bills. You've already taken care of what you need to take care of. You just doing this on the side for a little thrill, to have a little fun, man. Like I said, I used to gamble myself. I used to bet on college football games all the time. We used to have a little sheet. A little sheet down here, down south. They used to call it the sheet. You go down and you pick your winners, and then you go to the house. You know, we call it the house. Down here, you go turn your sheet in. Then you know it come back. Boom, there you go. But yeah, that's what it's. You don't gamble for the money, you gamble for the thrill.
But does that make it right, champ? Even though you do gamble through the field, but at some point in time, eventually your mistakes are gonna come up and catch you. And with people like that, you got too much to lose. Big fella, you always say 1,000 attaboys is erased by all one shit.
Yes.
And unfortunately, with Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups, it's so bad to the point their careers jeopardy. Terry Rozier as a player, Chauncey Billups as a head coach. Because remember, Chauncey Billups, people have forgotten the accusations that he dealt with before. So with this, even though it's nothing compared to that, but still, you know you're not supposed to be doing this. But you still do it. It's still going to be a bad look. And unfortunately, champ, it depends on how the Portland Trailblazers are without him. If Tiago Splitter, the interim head coach, does a good enough, successful job, you know, not only in business, but in life, they're going to move on from you. The moment they can find someone who can do just as good, if not a better job than the previous person, they're going to move on. Look, even though it's not gambling, look at Ime Udoka. The whole situation with Ime Udoka. Now, look, I don't believe, in my opinion, he should have been fired because, again, it was reported as consensual. He played a role, the woman played a role. But again, it was against the protocol of the Boston Celtics.
Yes, indeed.
And look what happened. Now, eventually, he did land back on his feet, and God bless him. And Joe Mazzulla did a good enough job to replace him and was able to get the Celtics to a championship. But just because it looks good, but you always say, champ, yeah, I may like it. Yeah, it's the thrill. Just because it looks good, that don't mean I have to do it. Yeah. You've often said that yourself, big fella.
Yeah, and that's how come, look, like I stated, and that's how come I put myself in it, because the thing is, I used to gamble. And yeah, you know, spade games, card games. Hey, man, somebody gonna get a touchdown. I bet you $20 this touchdown gonna be, yeah. It's the thrill. It's not necessarily the money, it's the thrill. But everything that look good to you ain't good for you. Let's just be all the way honest about it. And when you have a lot to lose, you have to be very, very careful about the situations that you're putting yourself in.
Not just you, not just them, their families. Yeah. Because again, they could seriously face jail time.
Yes, indeed. And not to mention this, man, Chauncey Billups was more than just a head coach. He was, you know, part of the Bad Boys Part 2 teams for Detroit.
Yes, he's a Hall of Famer. He was a damn good player in his time for Detroit. But the thing is, I have an awful lot to lose. Why am I involved in that type of situation? Chauncey Billups has made a good amount of money in his NBA career. So why would you put yourself involved in this type of situation? Again, I'm not saying he's guilty. Again, these are just accusations. We got to wait to see how it plays out. But the fact is, why is your name being involved in these types of things? That's the thing that we know. It's a bad look for the younger players because, again, they look at you as a father figure. Well, how are they going to take you seriously when you're going to be involved in something like that? If they see you doing something like that at your age, guess what? They're going to do it. And according to Celebrity Net Worth, his net worth, Chauncey Billups, is estimated at $35 million.
And that's just what he has as far as his NBA career, what he's
Yes.
made. That's just what they know of. That ain't
We got
even,
also
yeah.
endorsements, everything else. But the thing is, champ, this is a problem with the NBA with the gambling situations and stuff. So I don't know what's going to happen with the NBA. All time will tell. We gotta wait for further evidence until we go any further. But it's still an embarrassing, horrible look for Terry Rozier, Damon Jones, Chauncey Billups, and everyone else. How is and I mean, they got to be scared. By the way, did you see that dude, that FBI dude, when he was on Laura Ingram's show on Fox News, making that statement about Stephen A. Smith? Didn't look convincing. It looked like somebody who had his gun to his head.
I'm not, no. Go back to that conversation me and you had. That's why I'm laughing. I'm sorry. That's like I'm laughing about the situation. Come back to that conversation we was having earlier about it when he was on there. Because he literally looked like he was scared as hell when he was announcing that at this point. Because yeah, it's bad. It's real, real bad. And look, I don't think it's I know people are going to ask questions about certain stuff. I don't think it's any big conspiracy theory about certain things. I don't believe that at all. I just believe, look, you got caught. You know, this was back in 2019. You know, so this has been an ongoing case for a good little while. This has not been one of those things that just now happened in the last 6 months and all of a sudden, oh man, here comes something down the pipe. No, this was something that's been brewing. I mean, since before the last regime. So yeah, I don't really believe it's a big conspiracy. To Stephen A's point, it's just a thing that, hey man, you keep going to the well enough times, you're gonna fall in there. So, and then once you get it, and you don't know how deep that well is at a certain point when you fall in that well, and you don't know how deep the water is, or if you're gonna fall on concrete and bricks at a certain point. So, you just went to the well too many times,
Only
and
time will tell.
that's just what happened. I don't think it's no big conspiracy. If it was something else involved, a lot of another case involved, like a real random case all of a sudden on a humbug, maybe. But this been going on since 2019. That was 6 years ago. So when the case been going on 6 years and everybody's been building evidence like that, it's no different than any other case. Once they got evidence on you and they feel the need to strike, guess what? Hey,
But when
they're
you
gonna
have the
strike.
mafia and the feds, champ, not a good look.
Not a good especially when you think about when you think about the cases that the mafia had with the feds. The John Gotti case, the Paul Castellano case, the Lucchese case, the cases with the Chin. You I know we glorify it, but I watch crime documentaries. When you see interviews with guys like Rudy Giuliani and guys
Money.
like that, it was really, really bad. It was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, especially when you hear about the major families, which, to their credit, we haven't heard from them in a while. It's like you really didn't know they were still around. Like, it was rumors that they was going around, but I haven't heard about the families ever since the late great John Gotti. I haven't really heard about it.
I
You
just
know, you
think
might.
I just think because of that, because of the predicament that the families were involved in, because of the family member, they're like, we just gonna lay low. That's
Yeah.
how they look at it. But again, really tough situation. But speaking of Stephen A. Smith, he was on Carmelo Anthony's podcast, 7 p.m. in Brooklyn with Carmelo Anthony. He was also going on his podcast criticizing Jasmine Crockett. Champ, I think we know all the details. We'll provide more details to the audience. I know you will. I'm just going to keep it real short and quick with Stephen A. Smith. He talked about how Jasmine Crockett need to watch her tone, especially when she's talking about the president, and claiming that what she was doing was not work. Then you also went on Carmelo Anthony's podcast, the 7 p.m. podcast, and you talked about the situation with LeBron, how you don't like LeBron's ass, not even a little bit. It's, once again, it's everything that the First Lady Michelle Obama said about him and ESPN. How it is reality TV, how it's like the Real Housewives of Atlanta or Keeping Up with the Kardashians or any other house reality television show you can possibly think of. Stephen A. Smith, look, the more I listen to him talk, he's starting to sound an awful lot like Jason Whitlock. Sorry, that's just how it is. I'm just gonna say it. I don't have a problem with Stephen A. Smith talking politics or anything else, but to Roland Martin's point, because I watch Roland Martin, I'm sure you watch Roland Martin, brilliant brother. If you're gonna go on the air and actually talk about politics or any other shit, Stephen A., please at least do some homework and some research. The problem I also have with it is that not just him, because obviously he is a journalist. No matter how huge a celebrity he is, still in all, you are a journalist, Stephen A. You're supposed to report the facts, the truth, be honest, fair, objective. You're supposed to have integrity. But nowadays, Stephen A., how are we supposed to take you seriously when you keep going on podcasts talking about with LeBron? Clearly, I believe he's just doing that for his brand, his revenue, his attention. And ESPN obviously does not have a problem with it because it seems to me ESPN behind the scenes, we don't care. We're going to let Stephen A. do and say whatever he wants because it's generating ratings, revenue. And that's unfortunately how it is, champ. It's kind of like when people say we're so done with the 90s. That's how it is with journalism nowadays. The real actual reporting of journalism. The days of rest his soul, John Clayton or Chris Mortensen or rest his soul, the late great Stuart Scott. Journalism nowadays, especially sports journalism, sports media, is like a lost art. It's embarrassing at this point. I don't understand what the hell is going on. And to me, Stephen A. Smith, everything that you're doing is exactly Michelle Obama's point. And the fact is, you brought up Pat McAfee. No shit. What do you want Pat McAfee to do? Pat McAfee lives in Indiana. He used to play for the Indianapolis Colts. He has connections through Indianapolis, Indiana. LeBron James was in town. You mean to tell me you mean to tell me, Stephen A., you wouldn't have done the exact thing? If LeBron James or any public figure, well-known public figure, was right there in front of your face, you mean to tell me you wouldn't capitalize off of it? And then, of course, to Dwayne's point, I hate to say this, Stephen A. Smith became the biggest clown like he'd been called out by Terrell Owens. And I hate the fact that you push Max Kellerman out the back door, especially when Max Kellerman departed from ESPN and you admitted you played a role in it. And you talked about how Max Kellerman, the certain qualifications, the certain things that he didn't fit. Nah. And I agree with Marcellus Wiley when he said the situation about T.O. Remember when T.O. went on First Take and he said, I'm in the streets, Max almost seems blacker than you? Marcellus Wiley didn't say, I wouldn't go that far. However, if there's one thing Max Kellerman knew, he understood more about black culture than Stephen A. Smith. It seems to me, champ, Stephen A. Smith is playing both sides. And the one person he is hurting the most is himself. Now, he did apologize to Jasmine Crockett, but how am I supposed to take that apology, champ? That's kind of like taking Jason Whitlock at his word. And I don't think, champ, and this is why. The reason why I gotta be on you with this, because you have often said it, your worst fear, your nightmare is for anyone to ever compare or analogize you to Jason Whitlock. Brother, I can assure you that is the least of your concerns. If you're that concerned about anyone comparing you to Jason Whitlock, fuck him.
I appreciate
Because this is utterly ridiculous with Stephen A. Smith because he's sounding an awful lot like Jason Whitlock. He's sounding an awful lot like Jason Whitlock with these embarrassing, ridiculous takes. It's just only for money and revenue. He's being petty, and you still talk about LeBron. Stephen A. Smith. Now look, Champ and I, we agree. We didn't like the way how LeBron confronted Stephen A. Smith. I'm talking about the video that went viral during the Lakers game. But as you often said, Champ, a father would do that for a son or any child in that matter.
Yep.
And at the same time, Stephen A. Smith, you just keep putting your foot in your mouth and you don't learn from your mistakes. Now, look, LeBron, there's reports about him being phony and fake. Obviously, Champ, you heard about the report with him and Russell Westbrook when LeBron said, hey, let Russ be Russ. But behind the scenes, according to the report, that wasn't the case. And Russ could sense that. And look, LeBron is not always perfect either. But Stephen A. Smith, neither are you. You are the same person on air that falsely claimed that LeBron James did not attend the late great Kobe Bryant memorial. You apologize. You did do that. But you're a journalist. You would have stopped to think, is this something I really want to say on the air? Because not only it's not true, why is that relevant? Because your emotions, your feelings are getting in the way. Everything that Michelle Obama said about ESPN being a reality show, and the reason why you responded, Stephen A., to Michelle Obama that way, because you know deep down inside, whether you'll admit it or not, it is the dead honest truth. Everything Michelle Obama said was true. And again, for her of all people to make that type of statement, and again, I am not saying that Michelle Obama doesn't know sports, because usually you hear that from Barack Obama. But for her of all people to make that type of statement, that is astounding to me. Stephen A. Smith, all I just wish for you to do moving forward is do your homework, do your research, be fair, be objective. I don't know if anyone should take you seriously because clearly it just tells me you're only interested in the money and the revenue. Not every money is good money. Not every money is good money. And I've had a lot of respect for Stephen A. I still respect and admire his hard work. But nowadays, he's becoming a laughing stock. And he's becoming something that he really doesn't want to be, which is Jason Whitlock. And again, the reason why I stress that, Champ, is because you've often said that is your worst fear. Champ, I can assure you again, that will never be something that you need to be concerned about. Because whether you have a big platform or not, you're always fair, you're always honest, you always report the facts, report the truth. And I just think with Stephen A. Smith, he doesn't always report the facts. He doesn't always do his homework and his research. And perhaps he should take a page out of Brian Windhorst's book. Because Brian Windhorst, who has covered LeBron James since high school, still has integrity. Still hasn't forgotten where he came from. Still doing his job each and every day. I have more to say, but I'll let you go, champ.
Stephen A, man, we've come a long way from you being on, quite frankly, with Allen Iverson. We've come a long way from them days because I remember those days when you were a strong advocate for Allen Iverson and, you know, the way he represented himself and things of that nature. A lot of his early reporting came from covering the 76ers and Allen Iverson. So we've come a long way from the days of, quite frankly, and Allen Iverson. Number one, I understand controversy sells, but guess what? You got to be careful about the controversies that you put out. That's kind of crazy. You talking about Jasmine Crockett, you talking about the First Lady, and you talking about LeBron. Number one, I'm just going to be very, very candid and frankly honest. Carmelo, why the hell you let it look? Why would you bring him on there knowing that he doesn't like your friend? That's my first question.
Money, entertainment, ratings, revenue, and unfortunately, that's the thing. That's the thing. I asked myself that question, Champ, but again, it is business. I brought up Pat McAfee, who works at the same network as Stephen A. Smith. He brought in LeBron James, and I did not have a problem with it because, again, it's business. And even though Melo and LeBron are tight, but it is about business.
Yeah, it's about business, but I can understand Pat McAfee because he has no ties to anybody. It's like, look, this is a business. I'm the hottest thing smoking right about now on this network. Everybody's trying to get me ousted with everything, but you know, because every time you look around, a report is magically coming out about Pat McAfee. I don't know why, but every time you look around.
And who knows, Champ, given their relationship, who knows? Maybe Melo may try to bring LeBron on his pod to actually speak about it. Again, what I'm just saying is pure speculation. We don't know what could happen. So,
yeah, I understand it's business or what have you, but I'm not finna look. If somebody has a problem with you or one of my guys, then you got a problem with me. And I know that's not, you know, I know this is a business world. Everybody want to talk about money, 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 but you can't have a problem with one of my guys, and I'm gonna invite you on my platform. That's just me. You got a problem with one of my guys, I mean, you know, we can be cordial. I'm gonna be cordial and respect you, but I can't maneuver around you like that, knowing that one of my guys do not like you, or you don't like one of my guys. That's kind of crazy when you think about it. And knowing what he was gonna say, that's kind of weird. You know somebody's gonna say somebody that you don't like my homeboy, but you know I'm gonna bring you on there anyway. I don't know, but that's again that's me. I just you know, a lot of people move in loyalty. A lot of people move for profit. At the end of the day, do I think LeBron had a problem with it? He probably called him up and said, "Hey man, I'm about to be on this show or about to have dude on here or whatever, man. Be prepared for what comes out." No doubt in my mind, he probably did that. He probably called and let him know. But at the end of the day, it's like, no, I can't have you on here talking about my people, bro. You know, we can discuss sports. We can discuss what you're covering. We can discuss your endeavors in podcasting. We can discuss a lot of things. But what we're not finna fucking do, you're not finna discuss my people on here. You know what I'm saying? Even if I invite you somewhere, look, man, we're not finna discuss my people, bro. The second you discuss my people or speak out of turn, now you gotta leave. You know, I got a camera on you out the door at that point. You know, but that's just how it goes. As far as Stephen A. Smith goes, I have to say this. Number one, when did this GOAT debate become a LeBron smear campaign? This LeBron James smear campaign, from not liking LeBron as a basketball player to hating him as a person, this needs to be studied. Because it's not just Stephen A. Smith. This is like a global epidemic involved. It's just like you hear people talk about it all the time. You hear people bring it out. LeBron can say the slightest thing, and everybody gonna take it out of context and turn it into what they want it to mean. I don't know where this came from. It's not like just because your ego got hurt on national television or what have you, let it go. Be men about it. Guess what? Somebody confronts you. You're a father as well. Somebody say something about your daughter being on your podcast or what have you. Are you gonna say something? You bet your behind you are. And I expect you to do that, especially if you have a daughter. You will say something too. Now, do I agree with the way LeBron did it? No, indeed not. I do not believe in public embarrassment. I do not agree with humble pie and all that other stuff. Would my father had done that, knowing my father and how he was back in his heyday and how he is now? Yes, he would have. But that's just the way old school and new school handles it. But just because of that one incident, you're gonna sit around here and go on a smear campaign? Because before that, you had no problem with LeBron. Matter of fact, if you go online, there's pictures of you shaking hands with LeBron. There's pictures of that. It's documented. So because your feelings got hurt, you all in your feelings now. Now you want to sit around here and go on these smear campaigns. It's sad to what journalism has come to, and it's sad to how things are going at this point. It used to be where even with Barry Bonds, and everybody knows how difficult Barry Bonds was, there was never a lot of guys who was out here just talking about going on these revenge tours saying, I don't like him, I don't like him. Only Stephen A has done that. You don't see this from no other reporter going on these hate tours, talk about how much they don't like somebody. You don't see this from Peter Bird. You didn't see this from any other person other than him. Now, there's a lot of guys who done interviews with people. You know, you have the great Dale Hansen from the Dallas Morning News. He did interviews about the Dallas Cowboys, who had a lot of big time guys who have had encounters with these players and coaches, but they don't go on these revenge tours trying to bring unnecessary attention to yourself. That's bad publicity. That's a bad look. Because the thing is, what you're not understanding is, how is this going to affect your relationship with other athletes?
Look at Skip Bayless. I mean, his colleague at ESPN. Look how the way he burned the bridges with Troy Aikman, to which Deion Sanders had to fact check him. Charles Barkley, no fan of Skip Bayless. We all know what Charles would do if he was in a room with Skip Bayless. I won't go any further.
Yeah.
We already
Chris
know about
Carter.
the DeMar Hamlin tweet, what he
Chris
said
Carter.
about Dak Prescott. Let's not forget last week, him questioning Travis Hunter, of all things, for being baptized. But the
Yeah.
thing is, Champ, it seems to me journalism reporting is a lost art, and we're more interested in hot takes. Sometimes you and I are interested in hot takes. I am with hot takes. I know sometimes you are, not all the time, but sometimes. But that's the problem nowadays. We're so consumed with hot takes than actual facts and reporting. We're more interested in what we want to believe than the actual reporting. Stephen A. Smith, you're being petty, more than petty. You sound like an absolute fool. I mean, it's embarrassing to listen to you talk. And the more you talk, the more you continuously put your foot in your mouth. So I'm like, you gotta really learn, you gotta really be aware of what you're going to say. If you're gonna talk about politics, if you're gonna talk about certain things, and just listening to Stephen A. Smith talk about politics, he doesn't have no fucking clue to what he's talking about. He doesn't. He has no fucking clue to what he's talking about. It's an absolute embarrassment to listen to him talk about politics. I mean, that's as bad as Nick Fuentes calling Jason Whitlock a token.
Like I said, I'm trying to be nice when it comes to Stephen A, but it's embarrassing because it's like, come on, man. Do your research about stuff, man. You're not here. Look, I would never tell anybody to shut up and dribble, shut up and report, or what have you. But at least have some substance to what you have to say.
I mean,
Have
if
some
your ass is
substance.
gonna go on the air and talk, at least do some research or something. Look, I'm no political expert, but if I'm gonna talk about politics, I'm gonna have to do my absolute best to do research. We do our research, and look, it is exhausting to do all that research and stuff. But at the same time, we don't want to embarrass ourselves in front of the public.
Yeah,
And
but
I mean, even if he apologized, champ, to Jasmine Crockett, to which he did, how are we going to believe? Okay, Stephen A. Moving forward, we expect you to be different. We expect you to be fair and honest. I mean, In the words of Maya Angelou, when someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them.
Yeah.
And he hasn't learned from his mistakes. And you often said the definition of insanity is doing something more than once and expecting a different result. ESPN won't hold him accountable because if they did, they would tell him, listen, if your ass is going to go on the air and speak about this type of stuff, you might as well do some homework and research. If ESPN actually cared about morals and ethics, they would tell Stephen A. Smith to do that.
A lot of guys who left, who took the Skip Bayless, Jason Whitlock, just to name a few, who took that route. Do you see where they are right about now? They're not an
Mm,
asset to anybody but ESPN. Then that's what a lot of a lot of these networks, they're gonna do just enough for you to just say, hey, go, we're gonna let you do what you want. But when that contract run out, hey, yo. But look, do your research and look, we're the way that sports is now, we're not in the sports business anymore. We're in the story business. We're not in the sports business anymore. We're in the story business. And sports now is about the next big story. What's the next big story? Who's the next big story? How we're gonna evaluate the next big story. I mean, it's not about. I remember when 50-point games and 10 rebounds was enough to get you on the morning news. It was enough to capture the attention of the audience. It was enough to capture the imagination. It was enough. But nowadays, we've moved so far from that as far as journalism is concerned. I believe that that's no longer enough. I remember that if during garbage time, if SGA would have done that back in like 95, that would have been front page news. Everybody would have been talking about that game. Everybody would have been talking about Steph Curry's game. Sports has relatively changed due to the advent of social media. Everybody wants to be the first now. Everybody wants to be right now. Everybody wants to be the person to say that I was right about now. Everybody wants to be the person who says, I was right about this, I was right about that. And that's what changed the sports industry forever. It wasn't social media. It was the need to be right. It was the need to be first. It was the need to be in the thick of it at just the right time so you could get your claim to fame. That's what it's about now. We're no longer in the sports business. We're in the story business right now. It gets the story, the sport itself used to be enough. But nowadays, you want to get people talking, you got to have some drama. You got to have some chaos. You got to mix a little bit of that little extra in there. You got to mix the R word in there a little bit. You got to mix a little bit of everything up here. It's no longer about sports, it's the story business. Like I stated, right now is the best time to be a journalist at this point. You're in peak seasons. You got so much to talk about. You
Great
got,
things to talk about.
yeah,
NBA, NFL.
the
I
World
mean, you got,
Series is going on. You got the collective bargaining agreement that's going on in the W right now. You
but
have,
unfortunately, this.
yeah, you have Coach Sandy. Coach Sandy from the New York Liberty just won a championship just last year. She got let go by the New York Liberty, and she is the new head coach for the Toronto Tempo. And we all know that when they're good, Toronto is one hell of a market when it comes to basketball. That's the reason why the Toronto Raptors are still there to this day. That's the reason why Drake is a super fan to this day. So there's so much that you can be covering as a journalist as far as sports stories are concerned. But as far as sports are concerned, unfortunately, we've transferred it now into the story industry. We need this big story to come out. That is how come the NBA now, during garbage time right about now, it's not enough to have these high scoring games. It's not enough to have these early success. It's not enough for Steph Curry to be having an MVP caliber type of game. It's not enough for us to say, hey, what is it going to mean to Steph Curry's legacy if Jimmy Butler and company can deliver another championship? This will be his fifth one. What will it be saying? It's not enough now. Everybody wants to be invested. Everybody wants to have a little bit of drama to it. Everybody wants to have a little bit of chaos to it, which is the wrong way to go about it. Like I stated, I think even 10 years ago, That 55-point game by SGA would have been enough. It would
But it
have
wasn't.
been page news. The fact that
The
Al
rematch.
Horford,
Yeah.
the fact that Al Horford held Jokic to 3 of 14 would have been front page news.
Aaron Gordon scoring 50 points. Steph
Would have
Curry
been
scoring
front page
42
news.
points. Anthony Edwards scoring 41 points. There's, to your point, Chad, sorry to cut you off. There are so
Yeah.
many things to talk about positively. And unfortunately, once again, controversy sells. And at some point, champ, yeah, controversy does sell. But when does it get to a point where it's enough? Are we going to continuously go by controversy? I mean, look, champ, look, with the WNBA, there were so many things that we could have discussed. Before injury, Nafisa Koya was on pace to win the MVP. Had not been for injury, she was heading down that way. We could have talked about Asia Wilson's turnaround. We could have talked about several different things, but instead you want to talk about a battle between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. And it seems like to me, how much more controversy do we really need? Are we really that desperate as the public to be consumed by controversy? And the fact of the matter is, champ, I hate that we give people our flowers when they're no longer here. Because when they're no longer here, it's so quick. We're so quick to give them their flowers. Why can't we just give it to them while they're still here?
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is, look, you got to think about the difference between back then and now. Back then, talent was what mattered. Talent, pure talent. The most talented guy or the most talented woman, the most talented, they got the most attention. That's the reason why Larry, Magic, Wayne Gretzky, a lot of these players got their flowers during the time where they did, because talent was the ultimate elevator. It was the ultimate elevator. And it showed in every aspect of it. You had to have a certain level of talent in order to make it to another in order to make it to the highest level of platform. Nowadays, you have to be the most controversial. We see it every day on TikTok, us being content creators on TikTok. I see guys who know sports better than I do. And guess what? I'm like, this dude, and the dude will only have 6,000 followers, but I'm seeing him on my algorithm just spitting facts. Like, man, you are spitting right about now. You only got 6,000 followers? Let me share a video or something. But you see these very, very controversial guys who don't know what the blank they're talking about. And it's just like, dude, how do you have that many followers when you don't know what you're talking about? You sound like a fool. And everybody knows you sound like a fool, but yet everybody follows you.
There's certain
Nowadays,
there's certain content creators that shall name nameless. We know certain content creators. I think you know who I'm referring to, champ. That say a bunch of incoherent shit, but still get their views because the bottom line is, hey, we love their personalities. Hey, we love the fact that they're outrageous, they're flamboyant, they're loud, they're outspoken. And that's just what it is. And the thing is with Stephen A. Smith, he'll continuously sell because he is a loudmouth. He'll say the type of stuff that's going to piss off a lot of people. And my thing is, I don't want to be known for that. If I'm known for being, like you said, champ, you defend Russell Wilson all the time because Russ has this perception of being corny. And also, too, on the side, I'm digressing, I love his response to Sean Payton. Love that response. And look, Sean Payton, you brought that on yourself by continuously bringing up Russell Wilson, and instead of appreciating what you have as a quarterback in Bo Nix, I thought it was both unfair to Russell Wilson because he's moved on. He's with a different team. He hasn't said anything negative about you. He's handled it with class and dignity. Meanwhile, you still continue to take pot shots at him. And I also hate it for Bo Nix because I'm afraid, is this something that he's going to do sooner or later to you, Bo Nix? But back to Stephen A. Smith, champ. Like I said, there are other content creators that we know that say a bunch of crazy shit and they get their clicks and they get their views, and I think it's unfair, but they love it. And that tells us as the public, that just tells us how bad we are. Because I thought we're about facts and truth and proof, but we're not interested in that. We're interested in what we want to hear, what we want to see, because that's what sells. And look, champ, I'd rather be like I am as a content creator. May not always do the best type of job as a podcaster or content creator. I'd rather do what I'm doing right now than to be what Stephen A. Smith is doing. Yes, Stephen A. Smith makes a ton of money. Yes, he has a huge platform. A lot of major networks have invited him. Fox News, ABC, he, other podcasts he's on, other shows that he's on. But if I have to be so loud, so arrogant, so outspoken, and sound so ridiculous just in order for me to earn that type of living, nah.
Hey,
I know
y'all
it's
have to
easier
say
said
this.
than done. I know it's easier said than done. That's my worst fear.
I mean, I think Joe Budden said it perfectly on this song that he made called "Hip." Hip hop is who killed hip hop. He said we do a lot of things just to get in demand more. Then we go against everything we used to stand for, and I think that was profound because early Stephen A. Smith is like you heard none of this. You heard none of this. There was no personal vendetta with any players. There was no revenge tour going on, and a lot of things. Granted, he said some outrageous stuff, especially when you think about one of the things that he said with J.R. Smith at one time after a certain
The
tragedy happened,
the hoodies.
and because he had the hoodie on or what have you, and we know about what that tragedy is. It's not the first time he's been saying outrageous stuff, but to go on this complete like smear campaign is kind of inexcusable. But like I stated, you hear this day and age is not about talent. It's not about talent. It's about who can get eyeballs on you the quickest, how we can get the drama on us the quickest, how quick can we start some crap in the media, how quick that we could go back and forth on, you know, social media platforms like high school students in the gym. That's what it's about now. It's not about sports anymore. Everybody wants to be the person that was right. Everybody wants to be the person that was first. Everybody wants to bring the drama to it. Hot takes have always been around. Hot takes have always been around. There's been evidence of it. There's been evidence of sports reporters picking the underdog for a good up and coming season. There's been evidence of sports reporter having saying that okay, this guy's been a bust so far, but this is going to be his breakout year, and they go out there and do it. There's been evidence of that throughout the history of sports. The hot take just didn't start last week or with social media. This has always been going on at a certain point, and I hate that it gets called that. But hot takes was back even in the 90s. Even back in 91, nobody had my Falcons picked to go to the playoffs that year. We came out, we won, we went to the playoffs, even beat the Aints on the way to a matchup with your Washington Commanders, in which they end up beating us back then. So the hot take is nothing new. What's the new part of it is everybody is so quick to want to be right about a certain point. You not want to admit your mistakes. You not want to do anything. You doing corny jokes and stuff like that, man. Did you see did you see Kendrick Perkins?
Oh, for God's
That was funny because you can see how
that was
God
some
bless
straight
Mrs.
up.
Duncan.
That was some straight up
God
dumbass
bless
shit.
Mrs. Duncan because she was flat out embarrassed.
That was some straight up dumbass shit by Kendrick Perkins.
She was embarrassed. I feel bad for Mrs. Duncan, a fellow Georgian, because she was flat out embarrassed. She didn't even say anything. But nowadays, and I understand you have to put your personality into it, much like I put my personality into this, much like I wear the silly hats, I wear the black t-shirts, I wear the wave caps, I wear the turbans, I
But
wear a
that's
lot
never.
of stuff in order to
But
bring
that's never.
attention.
But that's never compared to. Chip, that's nothing compared to Stephen A. Smith making a complete ass out of himself.
Again, you have to look. I'm not saying that part, but you do stuff in order to attract your viewers. It's just like, what is he going to wear today? What is he going to do today? That don't mean
Like,
you go
like
make a
for
little.
real, I'm wearing an ECW sweatshirt, as you can see right here, ECW. But
Yeah,
again, I'm targeting to an audience that loves ECW, loves wrestling, just like
yeah,
you targeted an audience by wearing the Cartman hat. But
yeah.
with Stephen A. Smith, yeah, we understand who you're trying to target, but brother, you are a journalist, a reporter.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, yes, it's about entertainment, but it's also about the facts. Remember, how did you get into this business? By being a reporter, coveraging, reporting the facts, reporting the truth. And when you going on the air and saying all this dumb stuff, it's obviously you've been living under a rock because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So my thing is with Stephen A. Smith, look, you apologize regarding with Jasmine Crockett, but if you're gonna go on the air and talk about Jasmine Crockett or talk about politics or talk about anything else, please do some research.
Yes, and that goes back to
Otherwise,
what I just said.
otherwise you're gonna have Roland Martin getting on your ass all the time.
Yeah, but it goes back to what I just said though. It's not the story that brings you in. It's the dumb stuff and it's the hot takes that bring. Now I'm not even gonna say hot takes. It's the outrageousness that brings you in. That's what the thing is. I want to say something so outrageous that it's gonna force you to pay attention to me. It's no longer about sports. It's saying something so outrageous to bring you in. Like I stated, we stopped being in the sports business a long time ago. Nowadays, it's about the entertainment value of it. And you can see it with everything that we watch. You can see it with everything that we watch on television. Look at the highest rated shows that we have on television. None of these shows are really teaching us nothing anymore. None of these shows are really educational anymore. You really can't learn. When I was a kid, the most popular show was Bill Nye the Science Guy. When I used to go home, I used to want to watch that show because I wanted to learn something. Nowadays, rather than feeding knowledge into ourselves, we want to feed a bunch of drama bull jive. That's the thing. We would rather watch Zeus Network in order to see people fight all the time. We would rather watch the Kardashian to see what kind of trouble Kanye was going to do. We would rather see a lot of that
That's our
stuff.
problem.
And the
That's our
thing is,
problem.
and that's what I'm going to. A lot of that is the reason why a lot of the audience buys into what Stephen A. Smith said. It's not about learning something anymore. When I used to watch Stuart Scott, I learned something. I used to take notes on what he was saying. Why? Because I wanted to be able to reference what he said when I said it in school. When John Clayton said something, I paid attention. And guess what? Google is free now. You don't have to go to a library and look in the encyclopedia for the next 2 hours in order to find out something like we used to back when we was young. It used to be if you wanted some information, you had to go to the library, you had to get out them index cards, you had to go find it, and you had to go get up that big old book and sit it on the desk in order to find the information. It's really quick to find it now. But the problem is people don't want that information. They want to hear something that they want to hear, whether no matter what side of the spectrum that you're on. They want to hear a bunch of drama. They want to see a whole lot of bull drive. They want to see something occur. They want to see this big happening, and they want to be able to say, well, I was right about that situation. That's what sports has become. It has become more reality TV rather than sports journalism. And that is a problem. And like I stated, you can see that through the TV shows that we are watching. And you can see that even through wrestling. Remember when kayfabe, even in the early 2000s, was a big thing. Now, not so much. It's more reality TV. Everybody's in the reality TV business. Everybody wants that one big thing that's going to get your eyeballs on something. Everybody wants to see this one big drama field thing that's going to grab the attention of the audience. That's why journalism suffers at this point, because people are not trying to learn and educate themselves about the history, about the stats, about the analytics of the sport. They're looking more toward the drama of the sport. That's why you hear a lot of conversations. You're not hearing any conversations about Steph Curry about last year, how if he wouldn't have got hurt, how if he wouldn't have got hurt,
the Warriors would have had a chance to at least make it to the conference
yes,
finals or the
you're not
finals.
talking about the fact that he has a chance this year after that 40-point game and things of that nature. You're more talking about an interview that you saw during the offseason, more so than that. You're not talking about that anymore. That's
But
where we are in
unfortunately, champ,
sports. That's where we are in social media. That's where we are in
but
society.
but unfortunately, champ, I don't see it going down anytime soon. And it's just really, I'm afraid when someone that we love and we admire and respect, when they're no longer here with us, we're gonna give them their flowers, him or her their flowers. And instead, I just feel like we should just take the time to just appreciate the moment and just go from there. And it's sad. So, like I said, um, Stephen A. Smith, just please do your homework if you're gonna go on the air. If your ass is gonna go on the air and talk about politics or anything, please at least take the time to do some research. And the thing is, Stephen A., if you're gonna continuously go on this type of rant with LeBron or NBA players, how much more athletes, how much more people are you gonna alienate? Because regardless if your platform is gonna be hard for you to get interviews with people because they're starting to know your true colors or they already know your true colors. So champ, but let's talk about something something positive for once, because Lord, we've spent almost an hour and a half talking about the gambling controversy and Stephen A. But let's talk about some real basketball. Obviously, you had the back-to-back overtime games with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Shea has been playing out of his mind. Victor Wembanyama scoring 30, 40, and 15. You got that young rookie from the Philadelphia 76ers, a season debut, 34 points. Steph scoring 42 points, man. A lot of great basketball to see. Obviously, you saw Ja and Zion the other night. Um, Again, basketball season is officially back. What are your thoughts so far on the NBA?
All right. I'm going to take about 2 minutes and I'm going to give all y'all content creators out there some stories to talk about right about now. Rather than that drama, we're going to talk about real stories. One of the main stories is Victor, Wemby, because I can't say his name to save my life. Wemby. Is Wemby and the San Antonio Spurs on the verge in a couple of years of having another big three? That's what we need to be asking ourselves. Number two, if the rookie from the Philadelphia 76ers can do that constantly, it's just the beginning of a new process at this point. And should they just ambush the Paul George and Joel Embiid? Because what Joel Embiid did the other night, stunk up the joint. That's another storyline. Hey, Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors, do they have a last dance in them at this point before the team really starts showing their age? That's another story. And look, is SGA on the verge of winning another scoring title and another MVP? And for those of you who are going to sit there and talk about he's a free throw merchant, look at the free throws that a lot of great players have. Shaq, when you look at Michael Jordan,
James Harden.
a lot of times when you are a great player, you are going to get fouled for them to disrupt your momentum. You get fouled so they can disrupt your momentum. They used to do it to Jordan all the time, so he wouldn't flare up the team. You know, a big dunk or a big 3-point shooting will flare up your team. Sometimes they do that to disrupt your momentum. So for everybody who's calling him a free throw merchant, calling A'ja Wilson a free throw merchant, y'all need to stop that, man. You got to understand the game of basketball. Sometimes you get fouled so teams can disrupt your momentum. But that's a lot of stories, man. Not only that, man, Zion Williamson posterized Wemby. You know what I'm saying?
And then Wemby responded back with a block.
Yes, indeed. So there's a lot of storylines in the NBA at this point that you can make a story about rather than a whole bunch of drama. Is the process over as far as Joel Embiid is concerned? Can he even be traded at this point? is that contract too great for somebody to even take a risk on him? It's this because remember the rookie that they had last year, I forget his name, he was having a good year up until he got hurt.
Which rookie?
For the 76ers.
Oh, McCain.
Yes, he was having a good year up until he got hurt. And he was the rookie of the year last year.
Yes, and now with VJ Ejikumbe, who was the 3rd overall pick out of Baylor, to put him up with Tyrese Maxey and with McCain, it all depends on Joel Embiid's health. Because Philadelphia, when healthy, they can get back to the playoffs. Joel Embiid, when healthy, when he's in shape and when he's in condition, we talk about Jokic as the best center in the NBA, but Jokic is still, Embiid is definitely top 2. The problem with Embiid throughout his career has been durabilities, whether he takes it seriously enough, his conditioning. Remember last year, the report champ, I think it was Shams Charania who reported that Tyrese Maxey called out Joel Embiid, basically being late for everything.
Yeah.
And the thing is that is embarrassing for Joel Embiid, given how long he's been with the organization. And at the same time, that's also on the organization as well, because you've tolerated for so long because of how great he is as a talent. So there's a lot of great things to look at. I mean, you also look at the New York Knicks with a new head coach and Mike Brown with the young players. They're still without Josh Hart. They're still without Mitchell Robinson. But heck, you look at Jalen Brunson, 31 points, 10 to 20 from the field, 5 assists. Cat, a little under 50%, 6 to 16. But hey, 26 points, 13 rebounds, shot 4 of 6 from the 3-point range. We should talk about the New York Knicks, how they should be, in my opinion, the team to come out the East, considering the fact that Thibodeau is no longer there as the head coach. We can talk about Dallas. Unfortunately, it wasn't the type of rookie debut for Cooper Flag. But I like what I'm seeing with the NBA. It's great. I also like the fact that they're having the games on Prime. We should also have a discussion. Is the NBA's way of trying to compete against the NFL? But to your point, Chef, because we've had discussions like this is their way of trying to restore credibility, trying to bring back the fans to watch basketball. But it's going to be hard because, again, no matter what, people still love that pigskin. There's no doubt about it. People still love that pig spin. And, of course, let's not forget the Netflix games. Look at what the NFL did last year by having the Chiefs, Steelers, not to mention the Ravens at Texans, and who was performing on the halftime show. So we look at that. But I love what I'm seeing from the NBA. There are a lot of great things to discuss, man. It's still plenty of basketball. There's only been 2 games so far, very early, but I love what I'm seeing. I love what I saw from the Thunder Pacers game. Very competitive game, even without Tyrese Halliburton. Mathurin played very well, very exceptionally well. And they also had to go because, again, Miles Turner, he's no longer with the Indiana Pacers. And the Pacers would sure love to have him because of what he provides as far as 3-point shooting and as far as with defense. So I love what I'm seeing so far with the NBA. It's still very early, but I like it. There are a lot of great headlines we can discuss about that. And then sooner or later, of course, college basketball is approaching. So let's talk about that with basketball. It's still early. It's only been 2 games, but I love what I'm seeing. I love what I saw from the rookie VJ Ejikumbe. He's explosive. Still needs to work on his defense, I think, but he has a good enough shot. He could score from a multitude of ways, whether attacking the basket, hitting the mid-range shot, shooting the 3. But he can score. He can pull the ball up in the basket. But champ, I love it so far, man, and it's great. And hopefully we'll bring back our guy, our basketball nerd, Casual. Shout out to Casual, and please go check out his live streams, man. Does a good job, man. So shout out to our good guy, Casual, man.
Shout out to Casual, man. Look, you will still have that name to the day I leave this earth, man. The subject matter expert when it comes to basketball. I have not seen anybody in my lifetime has the basketball knowledge that Casual has. I don't know why he calls himself Casual, by the way. It's still confusing to me, but
You call me the New Jersey genius. I don't consider myself a genius.
The way you put this show out, hell yes, you are. And like I call Casual, Casual doesn't like the name. Casual doesn't like the name SME, the subject matter expert, but that's what he is. He's a subject matter expert. It's kind of an oxymoron if you ask me. He's calling himself Casual, where he's an expert in there. Like I stated, there's not too many people that I know that can dissect basketball in the way that he can do. Yeah, he can dissect it. Some people talk about it. He can dissect it. So shout out to Casual, brother.
Yeah, shout out to Casual, man. He's a great man, good dude, man. But fella, let's get into that pigskin because, of course, even though basketball season is here, let's not forget our pigskin. Vikings at Chargers. I was happy to see the old school uniforms, man. I thought it was great to bring back the Chargers some excitement. They should bring that. They should have those uniforms moving forward. But the Chargers, look, they had to win this one because, again, you were coming off a tough loss against the Indianapolis Colts. No shame. Justin Herbert didn't play particularly well in that game. He played much better. But man, Carson Wentz. I mean, he's like a deer in headlights, man. He just cannot stop himself from making pivotal mistakes. And now, are we gonna bring back JJ? Because you didn't just draft him with the 10th overall pick. You traded up in the draft to take him with the 10th overall pick. At some point in time, we need to see JJ play. And if you're Minnesota and if you're still trying to compete for a playoff spot, I think it's time you got to bench Carson Wentz and go with JJ, despite the injuries. What are your thoughts, Champ?
It's a repeat cycle with the Minnesota Vikings, man. I don't know what it is. It's like they can have everything around them going the right way, but they just cannot get the quarterback position right to save their lives. They just can't get it right. They'll get it right for like a year, maybe 2 years, maybe even 3, the longest, maybe 5. But they can never get it right long term. When you really look at this team and how talented you have arguably one of the most talented receivers that we have ever seen in Minnesota. And that's saying something, considering how talented the receiving cores that the Minnesota Vikings have drafted. When you think about Chris Carter, Drake Reed, when you think about the tight ends that they have drafted, when you think about Jordan Addison, when you think of Justin Jefferson is arguably, and even Chris Carter, one of the all-time greats
to reach 8,000 yards. He was the fastest to reach 8,000 yards.
Yes. When you have that, you have a good offensive line, you have good running back. Then you have a defense with a defensive coordinator that can out-scheme the best of them. Was a former head coach for a reason, by the way. It's just you have to get the quarterback position right. And unfortunately, they just have not gotten it right. And they had a lot of chances in order to get it right. They could have kept Sam Darnold, who was proven. You know, they won 14 games last year. Unfortunately, they did not want to alienate JJ McCarthy by keeping him, because they would have had to sign him to a long-term contract. And more than likely, JJ would have been sitting on the bench. They could have had Daniel Jones in order to start off the season. There was rumors that they were going to get Daniel Jones, and look at what Daniel Jones is doing now. But everything around him is right except for the quarterback position. And if you really look at the Los Angeles Chargers, quite the opposite. They have everything, including their quarterback, right. They have a few injuries here and there, but for the most part, they have their team pretty much right. They have the coaching, they have the defense, they have the running game, they have the depth. They have everything right to include their quarterback.
And shout out to this young tight end, Oronde Gadsden II. He's been playing very well lately, the last couple of games. I mean, even the loss against Indy, 9 for $164 and a touchdown. He's been stepping up lately for the Chargers. And of course, your UGA brother, Ladd McConkey, when they start giving him the football and when he starts making those plays, he has to be their number one wide receiver, champ. He has to be their number one option on offense for Justin Herbert.
Yes. So they're exactly opposite. They're heading in the opposite direction of each other. They have it. Minnesota has everything except their quarterback. The
I mean, they have
Chargers have
coaching.
everything, including their quarterback, and that's the thing. And like I stated, Minnesota, they get it right for a year when it comes to a veteran. They may get it right for 2 years. They might get a veteran quarterback. They might look up and get one for like 1 or 2 years. The long term, they haven't had a true quarterback since Fran Tarkenton. I know they had Dante Culpepper for a few years, but long term, I'm talking about 10 years, and that was just this figure of the
Yeah, Frank
franchise,
Tarkin.
this aura of the franchise. They haven't had that since Fran Tarkenton, and they've been constantly trying to replace him at a certain point, but they could not. They've had everything else around these quarterbacks. They just haven't had that one constant face that they can rely on.
I think also too, if you had issues with the quarterback situation, my thing is if you are Minnesota, you ran the ball 11 times in that game. Xavier Scott, 2 carries for 16 yards. Aaron Jones, the senior, 5 carries for 15 yards. Jordan Mason, 4 carries for 3 yards. If you know Carson Wentz is going to make mistakes and make bad, ill-advised throws, it's got to be your part as an offense to take some of the load off of him and rely on the other targets. And then in Carson Wentz, if it comes to a game tight or situation, let him handle the good. I'm sorry, I keep stuttering like hell. What I'm trying to say is, if you know Carson Wentz is going to make mistakes, why not make him more of a game manager? That's the perfect thing for Carson Wentz at this point, because we've seen him take chances. Like, for an example, champ, against the Eagles, against his old team. I mean, the mistakes, the turnovers. Carson Wentz, like I said, is a deer in headlights. He will take chances, and you're scratching your head. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? But again, the Chargers, they were going to win this one, because I just think that Minnesota on a short week, as long as Carson Wentz is the quarterback of that team, I knew that the Chargers were going to win. Chargers are a more loaded team. It's not just with Justin Herbert. Now they have good enough pieces with Lad McConkey, Kamani Vital. I mean, he had 23 carries for 117 yards. And when you play that well, that efficiently, and when you cut down on the mistakes more times than not, you're going to win. But with Minnesota, they're going to have to figure out what they're going to have to do with the quarterback position. And if JJ's injuries continuously pile up, then what's going to happen? We just wasted our time trading up to take him with the 10th overall pick, and he can't stay healthy. So I don't know. And I mean, the best quarterback they've recently had for like 4 or 5 years, you got to go back to Kirk Cousins. But since that time, not really much to brag about. I mean, Frank Tarkenton has been the longest one, to your point, champ, because at least it was a decade or more. But they just can't find a way to handle the quarterback situation. And they have defense led by Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator. So I don't know what more Minnesota is going to have to do, but I don't know, man. But I just feel bad for this team, and I feel bad for Roundup and for Tyson, because they mentioned that the offensive line was going to come back. We picked them over the Philadelphia Eagles because of the inconsistencies we've seen from the Eagles from time to time, particularly the Broncos and the Giants game. So it's unfortunate. But champ, I want to talk about Jackson Smith-Njigba, the wide receiver from the Seattle Seahawks. You can make a really strong case, champ, for him winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. Early on, it was Puka Nacua. You can make an argument for Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts. But Jackson Smith-Njigba, I mean, he has been playing like the best wide receiver in football so far this year. I mean, he had another outstanding game against the Houston Texans. I'm reading up the stats right here, right now. I'm just looking at it. Right now, he leads the NFL in receiving yards, 819. He's tied for 50th in receptions, number one in receiving yards. He's tied 11 for touchdowns. He's on pace to have 1,989 yards. He's on pace to break Calvin Johnson's 2012 record for the most receiving yards in an NFL season. The Seattle Seahawks, hey, listen, we talk about Shane Steichen, Coach of the Year, Kyle Shanahan, Coach of the Year. That head coach from Seattle should be in the conversation. McDonald for Coach of the Year, considering the fact that he's from Baltimore, and sure as hell, Baltimore damn sure misses him because with Zach Orr as their defensive coordinator, it seems to be Baltimore has forgotten their soul, what they do, what they represent, which is defense. And it's great, however, that they have the offense with Lamar and company, but defense, man. But Jackson Smith-Njigba, he's been playing out of his mind, champ. What are your thoughts about him?
Oh man, look,
And
they
he's
will
a
never.
product of OSU because we all know how great they are when it comes to developing receivers.
Yes, indeed, man. And look, we could talk about. It's just safe to say that Ohio State is wide receiver you, man, because every time you look around, they putting somebody in the league. I mean, and they be darn good too, man. Everybody thought that it was going to be Maserati Marv, which he is trying to find his footing in Arizona, partly due to quarterback play, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But you know, but SGN, I think he definitely, if he eclipses 2,000 yards, I think we
JSN.
can huh?
JSN.
JSN. I think that he definitely has a chance to win Offensive Player of the Year. I don't think they're going to give it to a wide receiver, man. If they didn't give it to Calvin Johnson or Cooper Kupp or even Jerry Rice when he broke the record when he scored 22 touchdowns in 12 games, if they ain't give it to him, I doubt they give it to anybody at this point. I think the last wide receiver that they gave it to was the wide receiver out of Green Bay. I forget his name, but I don't think they're ever going to give it to a wide receiver ever again. I think Baker Mayfield. I think it's Baker
Justin
Mayfield, right?
Jefferson. Justin
Huh?
Jefferson was the last wide receiver to win offensive player of the year.
Well, no, I'm talking about MVP.
I didn't say MVP with
Yeah,
Jackson Smith-Njigba. I said offensive player of the year because we
yeah,
all know that it's a quarterback.
yeah. It's
Everyone
a
knows it's
quarterback
a
league. They're
quarterback.
not going to let a wide receiver of all things win the MVP. But I really think legitimately that they have the capability of winning the offensive player of the year, man. And if he goes over 2,000, that will be monumental, man. I think look, Ohio State, man. I'm a Southern guy. I'm an SEC guy to the core. Although, my school is known for putting out running backs. I always say, I always like to say a Southern school like LSU is the wide receiver you, especially considering they got the best two wideouts in the league right about now. But when you think about just constantly, and I'm not talking about just I'm just going to put a wide receiver in the league and they just going to do something for a year or so and then they're just going to disappear. It's a constant. I mean, the thing is, everybody talk about Jeremiah Smith right about now. Cornell Tate might even be better than him. So, you got to give credit where credit is due, man. Ohio State, man, y'all are the wide receiver. It pains me to say that because, like I said, my Southern roots down here in the Bible Belt, man. I like to say it's a Southern school, but the guys from up north, y'all do y'all thing, man. But I think the JSN have a definite chance to win Offensive Player of the Year, man. Especially with the season that he had. It ain't even been 8 games yet. You already got 800 yards. It ain't
7.
even been 8 games yet.
Let's look at some of his games so far. I'm just checking it out right now on ESPN.com. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games of over 100 yards or more. The
That's
fewest
ridiculous.
receiving yards he's had this season, you got to go back to the Thursday night football game against the Arizona Cardinals, in which they won 23-20, 4 for 79 yards. I mean, he is consistent, champ. And again, Sam Darnold, I mean, is having a hell of a season as well. Seattle, they are making some noise in that NFC West. It's not just the Rams, and it's not just the 49ers. You have to take into account the Seattle Seahawks as well, man. But when you look at wide receivers from OSU, they look at Marvin Harrison, Garrett Wilson, you look at Jackson Smith-Njigba, Emeka Ibuka, now Jeremiah Smith, now Cardell Tate. I mean, they all wide receiver you. And then after that, of course, you got to throw in LSU because of Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors, Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr. And then you look, of course, you can't disregard Alabama. They still gonna bring out their wide receivers. But champ, there's a big game on SEC. Ole Miss versus Oklahoma. Who do you think wins this one?
The state of Mississippi. And the quote life, the state of Ole Miss, man. I don't know if their quarterback are y'all quarterback playing this week?
John Mateer, yes, he just got back from that thumb injury. He was awful in that game against Texas, in which he threw 3 interceptions. But I'm gonna go with Oklahoma, champ, because I just need John Mateer just play good. Don't be pretty, be good. And you know for a fact, Oklahoma, if there's one thing that we can provide at this juncture, defense.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed.
So we're gonna do some things on the defensive side. John Mateer, look, if I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma loses, but all I ask from John Mateer, don't do anything dumb. Just be smart, make your decisions, go with your progressions, go through your reads when you need to, use your legs. I would love to see Oklahoma win. So I'll go with Oklahoma. Now, Lane Kiffin, he's going to draw up stuff on the offensive side, though. That's going to be the concern, though. But I think our defense is good enough to handle that type of challenge. All we don't need to do is commit turnovers and do dumb things regarding penalties.
Yes, indeed. I agree.
All right, champ. Let's go with NFL picks because we know we got some NFL picks. We got to try to keep this short and sweet. You got one of the shitter games. Jets at Bengals.
I want to see what Joe Flacco gonna do, man. He did pretty good last game. I want to see what he gonna do if this magic can continue, man, or if they can somehow get somewhere. You know, everybody's anxious to see an underdog story, and you get the hell out of Cleveland, all of a sudden good things happen. So let's see what Flacco can do, man.
I got the
the Bengals.
Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately for Justin Fields, he's been benched. I did like his press conference. But again, Woody Johnson, my God, at some point in time, we're gonna have to have more conversations about him being the worst owner in not just the NFL, but maybe in sports, man. And I'm gonna say it again, champ. Last year, Madden ratings. Of all the things that you can do to evaluate and acquire players, you go by Madden ratings.
Mm.
Shame. Bears at Ravens, and Lamar Jackson will come back.
I'm gonna go with the Bears. I think it's too little, too late for the Ravens at this point. Even if they go on a winning streak, I think it's too little, too late for them.
I don't think they're gonna put up crazy eye-popping numbers. I see the Bears at least scoring 24 points, but the Baltimore's defense, they've been so dreadful this season. Hopefully, they had the bye last week, right?
Yeah, I think they did. I'm not for certain. Don't get me the line. Let me pick up this. Let me pick up my computer. Let me pick up my computer and see.
Yep, they had the wait. Yeah, they had the bye. They had the bye, so they're 1-5. Cincinnati's 3-4. We're heading into week 8, so they had the bye. My thing is with Lamar, how's he gonna be with since that hamstring injury? Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams so far they've been clicking. Caleb Williams hasn't been playing spectacular. However, his play has improved. Chicago is 4-2. They just have to run the football with DeAndre Swift. And with Zach Orman, look, if you continuously having horrendous performances with this defense, sooner or later, you're going to get out of here in Baltimore. And I don't know if John Harbaugh is going to be fired because he's been with that organization since 2007, 2008. But at the same time, man, I'm going to still keep Todd Monken offensive coordinator. It's the best thing that's happened to Lamar's career since his sophomore year.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next pick. Oh, this is an easy one for you. Forever I love Atlanta. It's against the Dolphins.
Oh, we gonna beat two of we gonna in the great words of good old JR, we gonna whoop him like a government mule. So forever I love Atlanta.
I think there's the only reason why they don't want to throw in Quinn Ewers because of what James Pierce and that defense is going to do to them. And if I'm Atlanta, don't make Michael Penix do more than what he's asked. Just hand the ball off to Bijan and Tyler Algier, and just be smart with the football. That's all you need to do. All right, now this one is a very interesting one, though. Bills at Panthers.
Buffalo.
I'm going to go Carolina. They've been playing well at home. Now, depending on Bryce Young's injury, so we got to wait and see on that. But, champ, to me, Rico Dowdle, you saw what he did against the Carolina Panthers, and you saw the week before, I'm sorry, not the Panthers. You saw what he did against his old team, the Dallas Cowboys.
Yes, absolutely.
And he's been going on a tear. And the Bills, their rushing defense, champ, they are just that bad as far as with the rushing defense. You saw, after all, that Monday Night Football game against your Atlanta Falcons. So if Rico Dowdle, if he's looking to have a statement game, a big-time game, look no further than the Buffalo Bills defense. And Josh Allen lately, he's been looking like the Josh Allen of old as far as with the turnovers, champ. So if they want to help out Josh Allen, let James cook.
Yes, indeed.
All right, the next one right here. 49ers at Texans. I believe the 49ers should win this one, though. Unfortunately for Houston, no Nico Collins.
Bang, bang, Niner gang, guys. Good luck.
Giants at Eagles. I'm going to go with the Eagles. Unfortunately, no A.J. Brown. He's been ruled out because of a hamstring game. My thing is with Philadelphia, you came off a tough loss to the Giants in which you had a 4-point lead, and the New York Giants outscored you by like 21 points. Jalen Hurts played outstanding last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. Devontae is going to get more of his targets. And even if Saquon Barkley is not going to get it going as far as with the running game, I mean, you still have Goddard. And we saw what Cam Scatterboo did to y'all on Thursday Night Football. Jackson Dart has been playing very well. And by the way, I got to say this, champ, I know I'm digressing. Jason Whitlock, of all people, he blamed Jackson Dart for the game against the Broncos. You know that, right?
That's how come I don't pay attention to what he be saying. And that's how come I keep saying over and over again. The day that I'm compared to Jason Whitlock, I will instantly quit.
No, you're not doing that. I will not allow you to do that. I refuse you to do that. You work too damn hard.
The day that happens, yeah, my mic is going up forever. I'm done. I will never commentate again. And I'm like, I'm good on that.
Who you got, man?
I'm going with the underdog, man. I want to see Cam Scatterboo in that. I want to see them pass a test. Let's see if you can pass the test. Let's see if the kids can play with the grown men at this point, man. Let's see how this defense is going to test your will. How it's going to be all the lights too bright for you to go up against the defending Super Bowl champions. I want to see how you respond to that, how you run against that, how you pass in the face of adversity when Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis are coming right at you. I want to see how the kids are going to do. So I'm going to take them because I believe they can persevere, man. I want to see Cam Scatterboo have a good game, man. I like Cam Scatterboo, man. Cam Scatterboo is, like I said, man, I like to see him run, man. That hard nose appeal, man, is, like I said, I like Cam, man. Cam Scatterboo is that dude, man.
Browns at Patriots.
The Patriots.
All right. Buccaneers at Saints. Tampa is 3.5-point favorite. New Orleans is going to make a pretty competitive champ because, again, it's the NFC South. Unfortunately, Mike Evans is out for the rest of the season because he broke his collarbone. I don't think Chris Godwin is going to play, but I still believe Tampa's going to put up points, and we all know you don't like the Aints.
No, the Aints would never. You look, I cheer for the Yucks before I cheer for the Aints, so I go with the Yucks. Shout out to Baker Mayfield, though, man. Keep having this MVP season, bro.
Cowboys at Broncos. Denver's a 3.5-point favorite. You going with the Cowboys, huh?
Yes.
Because of Mama?
Dallas. Yeah, because of Mama. Hey, look, Dak, keep doing what you're doing, man. Go out there and air him out like a Steelers fan, bro. Air him out like a Steelers fan. Because that offense, now they got a running game. So it's gonna keep the attention off them two receivers, man. So yeah, I like what I'm seeing when it comes to Dallas. Now, they got a lot of improvements they got to make on defense, no doubt about it. But
I'm gonna go with Denver.
I'm anxious to see. Is Patrick Surtain? Is he back? Is he playing?
Let me look it up right now. Patrick Surtain.
Because that's gonna be interesting if he's there.
Let's see right here. He's gonna play.
Oh, he's playing?
Yes. I mean, what? He had an injury or something before?
Yeah, he had a small little injury before that was in
no, he's playing. He's especially when it comes to that type of matchup with CD and George Pickens.
Yeah.
But champ, also too, you can't disregard what Bo Nix has done. Say whatever you want. Bo Nix has found ways to help this team win games. They came back from a 14-point deficit against Philadelphia. They came back from an 18-point deficit against the New York Giants. Denver, they have a really good defense. And this could be a game in which they can put pressure on the Dallas Cowboys offense.
Yeah, I believe that wholeheartedly, man. Don't be surprised if at the end of the year that they have two defensive players with 20 sacks. Don't be surprised because that defense is very, very capable, man. If they have two individuals with 20 sacks at the end of the year,
Nick Bonito from my Oklahoma Sooners, who is been playing outstanding so far.
Yeah, they have the capability of doing that. So don't be surprised. But for this game, Dak gonna air him out like a Steelers fan, man. I believe that wholeheartedly.
And I believe that Denver is gonna get the W. All right, Titans at Colts. Obviously, we're going with Colts.
The board is unanimous, Your Honor.
Packers at Steelers.
Go, Pat, go.
I got the Steelers. And obviously, Commanders at Chiefs. The board is unanimous. It's Kansas City.
Yeah.
Because Jaden Daniels has been ruled out. And again, I got to say this to Miss Regina Jackson, who's the mother of Jaden Daniels. Look, champ, in fairness to me, I want to make it very clear. I respect Miss Regina Jackson. She has done a fantastic job as far as with Jaden Daniels. Champ and I, we've defended her on our pod because a lot of people felt that she was being too involved in Jaden Daniels' life. But at the same time, hey, that's her mom. That's his mom. Mom's just looking out for him, even though sometimes I feel like she needs to let Jaden do his own thing. But we can understand where she's coming from. But I do have a problem with her response about getting on people when it comes to the Jaden Daniels RG3 comparisons, because Jaden Daniels, he's had injuries so far this season. The sprained knee injury in which he suffered week 2 against the Green Bay Packers. And then last week against the Dallas Cowboys, he had a hamstring and was ruled out for the game. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson, but the comparisons are fair. Because again, champ, what was my main concern and skepticism about Jaden Daniels?
His size, durability.
And again, this is the reason why I said I would have gone with Drake May with that draft. Now, Drake May, and to his credit, Drake May has played well enough to be in the conversations for the MVP. And right now, New England, hold on, we thought it was Buffalo running away with that AFC East division. Doesn't look like it that way, because not just with Drake May's play, you look at Mike Vrabel as the head coach, who's done a good enough job. Tennessee made a mistake by letting him out the door.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Miss Virginia and Miss Jackson, it's about the play with Jaden Daniels. My concern, my main skepticism with Jaden Daniels was his size. I felt like he was too skinny, considering the fact that we had Robert Griffin III. Coming out of college, he was known for being skinny. And yes, there are the comparisons, the similarities are pretty fair. Both were drafted with the number 2 overall pick. Both were Heisman Trophy winners. Both were sensational during their rookie seasons. But as their careers went on, they've regressed. Now, Jaden Daniels' injuries are not as severe as RG3's injuries, but the injuries are starting to pile up. And because of his size, that was my major concern with Jaden Daniels. Again, I'm afraid if Washington does not do its part to protect him, sadly for Washington, that this will be just as painful, more painful than for us to move on from RG3, because we finally found a quarterback of this caliber that we believe that can take us to the promised land. And now, because of all these injuries, we're going to have to start back from scratch. If we're not careful with Jaden Daniels, champ, if he continues to pile up injuries, I'm afraid, is he going to be the next Burrow or the next Andrew Luck?
I hope not. And those comparisons are fair, but at the same time, they didn't do a good job. I know they went and made some moves on the offensive line.
They did with Laramie Tunsil. They drafted Josh Connolly, and they've done their part of trying to help out Jaden Daniels. People want to take the easy route by saying sophomore slump, but at the same time, we're just only talking about football, Ms. Jackson. The similarities are pretty fair if you actually look at it.
It's fair, but at the same time, is it really? Let's
Yes.
just be honest about it.
Yes, Chip.
No,
Chip,
because Michael Vick had the same problems in Atlanta. There was time that Michael Vick didn't even practice. He had leg injuries. He had rib injuries. He was a running quarterback. He had just as many injuries. So,
but what was it's not because of the running, champ. It's what did I tell you about Jaden Daniels' size? My concern was he's a skinny quarterback. I already dealt with RG3, who's a skinny quarterback. I would have gone with Drake May because Drake May is bigger. He's not like Josh Allen, that type of big, but at the same time, he's bigger enough to handle that type of punishment compared to Jaden Daniels, and he's a good enough talent. That was my concern, my skepticism with Jaden Daniels from day one. Never his talent or production. My concern was his size.
Yeah. But the thing is, Mike Vick went through that same thing, that same process. There was times where Mike Vick, he couldn't practice when he was in Atlanta. These are just minor injuries. These are not these super injuries that, broken arm, broken leg, torn ACL, things of that nature. Plus, he has an organization that's very, very capable at this point, and he doesn't have to worry about these coaches like Jay Gruden, who is going to mess up his career.
Well, that's because of Dan Snyder. Obviously, with the new ownership, I'm not concerned about that as much. But champ, them injuries, even though they're minor, they're piling up.
Yeah, it's only his second year though. Like I said, the same thing used to happen with Michael Vick when he was down south when he was in Atlanta. He dealt with a lot of injuries. he was out for a game or two when he was, when he didn't break, the year before he broke his leg. There was a lot of speculation on whether he was durable. Leading up to that Green Bay game, there was a lot of speculation on if he was going to start in that game, considering how cold that it was when we went to Lambeau Field and upset Brett Favre and beat them for the first time in Lambeau Field in a playoff game. Mike Vick went through the same thing. Is it fair? Not necessarily. I think people are so short-sighted. A lot of times with running quarterbacks, especially when you have one that doesn't have the size and the girth that Jaden Daniels lacks at this point, a lot of times people are going to get scared and say, oh man, here we go again. But the thing is, this is his second year. A lot of running quarterbacks have those injuries. Remember, Lamar Jackson had those injuries. Michael Vick had those injuries. Josh Allen had injuries. There was a lot of running quarterbacks who are just as dynamic, if not more dynamic, who had those injuries at a certain point. Like I stated, I point to Michael Vick as a prime example because I remember reading in the paper. Back then, we read newspapers, by the way. I remember reading in the newspaper on how he didn't practice. I remember watching on the local news on how he didn't practice a certain week because he was so sore and beat up from certain games. And you know how he had to sit out one game, and then Doug Johnson had to come in order to do some things. Lamar Jackson, he had the hamstring injury. Matter of fact, he had one early. Matter of fact, he just now coming back from the injury this year. He just now coming back. So when you have a dynamic quarterback like that, it's unfair to compare him to the first guy as far as RG3 is concerned, because a lot of running quarterback has those same type of injuries and they're able to come back. I really think that now he's taking a lot more punishment because he's really being asked to do more. He's being asked to do more. Teams are keying in on him. Teams are seeing what he is capable, has seen what he's capable of. So they're trying to take the fact of how dynamic that he is out of a game, and they're attacking him and going on the attack a hell of a lot more. But we've seen injuries, especially during sophomore seasons. We've seen it with these running quarterbacks a lot. We've seen it all before. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the next RG3. Like I stated, Lamar and Vic are the prime examples of we've seen these injuries before. We saw these injuries with Randall Cunningham before because he was a dynamic running back or dynamic quarterback. We see this all the time. So I understand the frustration that she has because we've seen this before with these dynamic quarterbacks. I don't necessarily want to be compared to the first tragic figure that we've seen in Washington, that being RG3, because guess what? A lot of these other quarterbacks, especially the reigning, you know, the guy who was supposed to win the MVP this year, he suffered a hamstring injury. There's been a lot of injuries with dynamic quarterbacks like that. So
but here's the thing, champ. With Jaden Daniels, yes, Lamar, obviously, but Michael Vick. But here's the thing where I disagree with you, Michael Vick. Michael Vick coming out of VTech wasn't that type of passer the way Jaden Daniels was. And yes, to your credit, yes, Washington is in a different situation and different circumstances with the new ownership compared to the past ownership with Dan Snyder and Jay Gruden. And yes, also RG3 is at fault. Because again, it was reported that he wanted to change his offense and he wanted to be a pocket passer like Peyton Manning. But at the same time, champ, he is a skinny dude. One hit, it doesn't even matter. Even that hit against the Dallas Cowboys, hamstring injury. And of course, he has a sprained knee. And again, although they're minor injuries, champ, if them injuries continue to pile, you're going to ask yourself, okay, if these injuries continue to pile, are we going to at some point sit him out for the rest of the season? Because I'm wondering, this is something that we're going to have to do if I'm Washington, because if God forbid, if I put him back on that football field, it may not be another minor injury. It may be something worse. And that is my biggest fear, because he's going to have to go back and do all that rehab and stuff. I still believe in Jaden Daniels, champ. Don't get it twisted. I do believe in Jaden Daniels' ability and his upside. But again, the comparisons are fair because of the size, not just because of the playing style, the size. He is a skinny dude. Again, Kyler, what were the skepticisms, the criticisms of Kyler Murray, other than the fact of his immaturity? His size.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm concerned if he doesn't build up in weight, he gonna get hurt. And again, you always say quarterback cannot throw behind his back. Washington, they've done their part of trying to give him some offensive line help. Yes, he's asked to do a lot more work, and it's not entirely all on him. Look, Terry McLaurin. We expected Terry McLaurin to regress, considering the fact that he was holding out, obviously, for a new contract. And look, Debo and other players have been injured as well, but the comparisons are somewhat fair. Not just the fact that they were number 2 overall picks, Heisman Trophy winners, but still in all, the size. That's the main concern I had with Jaden Daniels. I believe if I had Drake May, now again, I could be wrong. Drake May could have injuries, but who's more likelihood to have an injury, Drake May or Jaden Daniels?
Jaden Daniels. Like I said, I agree with you on a lot of what you're saying. But like I said, I keep comparing him to Vic because Vic didn't necessarily have the ideal weight and the height of a prototypical quarterback.
But he was
Remember,
more prone to injury compared to Jaden, given his playing style.
exactly, he was more prone to injury. Remember the second year of him as a starter, remember he broke his leg in preseason. He broke his leg in preseason and he was able to come back and have one of his greatest seasons the very next year. Then the year after that, set the record for most yards by a quarterback. So that's how come I keep comparing him to Vic, because we've seen the dynamic quarterback that didn't have the ideal size be able to get injured and then come back. I really think that there's a lot of things that needs to be done about the offensive line. They've done their best to try to get some extra protection, but I wouldn't compare him to. I don't want you. I don't blame her for saying that. Like, damn, don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
at
it's
the same time, I'm not saying don't jinx it, but at the same time, don't summarily dismiss it. They are somewhat legitimate. They are somewhat fair.
yeah.
We can't. Two things can be true. No, it can be true.
Yeah, two things can be true, but like I said, I
And
don't.
again, yeah, again,
I don't
I'm
want
being
you.
nice to Miss Jackson because again, I actually like her. Again, I'm not saying he's gonna end up being RB3, but again, champ, I gotta say it, my main concern. You got to give me credit on this. I've been consistent and adamant about it with Jaden Daniels. Never his sound or play, his size.
Mhm.
His, I'm afraid. I sometimes am afraid if he gets sacked, if he gets hit, I'm covering my eyes, champ. That's how bad it is for me. And yes, I understand with Vic and Lamar because they were able to suffer injuries and they were able to bounce back. But at the same time, if you're Washington, you got to be very careful because it's been more than a decade. You finally found a quarterback, a true legit quarterback. I mean, after RG3, you dealt with Kirk Cousins, Alex Smith, who also suffered a catastrophic leg injury.
Mhm.
Okay. You had to deal with Mark Sanchez. You had to deal with, unfortunately, rest his soul, Dwayne Haskins. And you've dealt with a laundry list of QBs. And I'm afraid, and I hope that's not the case with Jaden Daniels. Because if that happens, unfortunately for me, champ, and Washington, we have to go back from scratch and wait for another decade or so to get a quarterback. Because quarterbacks of that type of caliber, you don't wait for a year or two. They don't normally come out like that.
Only once in a generation, man. Once in a lifetime.
Look, champ. I understand you want me to be have grace, but at the same time, I do think it is fair though to point out those types of comparisons because unfortunately for Washington fans, it is a major concern. Maybe I'm just being emotional, champ, because again, I am a Commanders fan, and it's been a lot for me to stomach over the past decade or so.
I feel you on that. That's valid. It's very, very valid.
Because again, we haven't had a quarterback of this type of caliber before. I mean, honestly, when have we really had a legit quarterback since Doug Williams, who was the first black one to win a Super Bowl? I mean,
Yeah, Mark
we
Lanier for a couple years.
yes,
Mark Rippon. Mark Rippon was Super Bowl
Jason Campbell,
MVP.
yeah, Mark Rippon, but we also had Jason
Jason
Campbell for a
Campbell.
little
You,
bit.
you haven't had that constant, but yeah, it hasn't been constant since I say since Mark Brunell. Mark Brunell has had some good years up there, man. But yeah, I understand everything you're saying, man. But I mean, I always try, especially when you have a exciting quarterback like that. I always try my best to be optimistic about everything because guess what? Like I stated, when Vic was down here in Atlanta, he got hurt. He was constantly getting hurt. There was constantly every time you looked around, it was like questionable, questionable, questionable. On the injury report, you start getting a little bit scared, and then lo and behold, next year he broke his leg, and then the year after that, he came out there and it was just lights out. Went all the way to the NFC Championship, but it's always hope against hope, man. That sophomore year, I would say probably always the worst year, man. Teams are kind of figuring you out. You're trying to figure out how to outsmart it. Defensive coordinator scheming for you now. And it's not necessarily the offense has figured you out. It's they're scheming for you now. They're scheming about ways to stop you now. They're putting,
which is why I want Cliff Kingsbury to call more snaps under the center as opposed to the shotgun.
yeah. So they're scheming for you now. They're trying to neutralize your legs. They're trying to neutralize that big arm that we know you got. They're trying to neutralize all of that. They're running safeties high and a QB spot all at the same time. They're doing all of that. So yeah, that sophomore year is always the most horrible because teams are now scheming for you based on what they're seeing, what they're seeing on film from last year, and they're trying to figure out everything at this point. So yeah, sophomore year is always, depending on who you are, the roughest year because teams are starting to figure you out and scheme for you a lot more. They're starting to scheme for you a lot more.
Well, again, I just hope that Washington is smart with it. If Washington ends up going 3-6, 3-8 this season, then would you consider benching Daniels out for the remainder of the season?
Absolutely. Sit down. I said the same thing. Look, I said the same thing for Lamar. Like if they played another game and it's too far to week, sit down.
Thank
Sit
you.
down. You ain't get, look. There's not much you can do here. We're not gonna go to the playoff. We're not gonna win a championship at this point. Sit down. Now, if they
Good.
able to come back and do some great things, then power to you. Because we saw something like that almost happen last year with Joe Burrow. But if you get to a point where it's just so out of reach, I'm not going to do this just to put butts in these seats. I'm trying to protect long-term investment and long-term Super Bowl aspirations. Sit down. So yeah, if it starts getting bad, it's time for you to sit down.
Well, look at the next three games that the Commanders have. They got the Chiefs Monday Night Football. They have a Sunday Night Football game at against the Seattle Seahawks. Then after that, they have the Lions. Then they have the Dolphins. Okay, you can beat the Dolphins. But then 2 weeks after the Dolphins, you face the Broncos. You go on the road to Minneapolis. You go on the road to the Giants. You have the Eagles. You have the Cowboys. And then you have the Eagles. So that schedule is pretty scary, though, if you are Washington.
Scary, scarier than Halloween.
So, hey. But look, again, just to be clear, everyone, I do believe in Jaden Daniels' talent and his ability. Again, my concern about him from day one was his size, never his talent. So I want to get that straightened on the record. But folks, let's move on to my favorite subject, babyface or heel. Now, in babyface, heel, in wrestling terminology, babyface is a good guy, heel's a bad guy, tweener is someone in between. So I came up with a list of athletes or celebrities or whoever, and we're going to decide whether they are a babyface or heel. Dwight Howard. Tweener.
Yeah.
Because again, he is a playful type of dude. I do love the Charles Barkley and the Shaq impersonations. I mean, in Orlando, unquestionably, he was the best big man in the game. You're talking about a 3-time defensive player of the year, a perennial all-star. He stopped us, champ, from watching what we wanted to see, meaning the media and the public, which was a Kobe and LeBron final.
Mm-hmm.
He prevented that, and he took Orlando Magic to the finals when he was the focal point. Unfortunately, he was traded to LA. Your Lakers champion only lasted 1 year there. There was some friction between he and Kobe Bryant. It was reported that he wanted Phil Jackson to be on the team, but instead they decided to go on a different route and hire Mike D'Antoni. Then after that, he went to Houston and he down the 5-year, $118 million deal that the Lakers offered him. And he decided to go to Texas, 4-year, $88 million. He was training with Hakeem Olajuwon and Kevin McHale. In terms of learning post moves, fundamental moves, things of that nature, what better way to learn all that from Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon and Kevin McHale? It was also exciting for Dwight in Houston to pair him up with James Harden at the time, but for whatever reason, it couldn't work. People question whether Dwight took basketball seriously. The other things said about him regarding his fan personality. Say tweener. Because I feel he's a good enough player. There were even questions about whether or not was Dwight Howard Hall of Famer, and also too he was snubbed out of the top 75. Was champ. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, 8-time All-Star, a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. This has led the league numerous times in block shots and rebounds. Athletic. I mean, I wish Dwight Howard. I mean, the only knocks on Dwight Howard was whether if he took basketball seriously, the post moves. But he is funny though. He is comical. He is funny. He's a mini Shaq. And remember, Champ, I told you about that candy bar addiction that he had.
Yeah. that was pretty funny. Yeah, you told me about the candy bar prediction. Yeah, I got myself in trouble with that with D as far as the candy. Talking about the candy.
No, that was Lamar Odom for different reasons.
But for obvious reasons. But yeah, I will say this. I'm trying to look up the top 75, the top 100. Was it top 75 or was it top 100?
Top 75. Remember NBA did top 75 for the All-Star game? And he wasn't even...
Okay, hold on. I'm trying to find that because people have often said exactly what you have said, but I'm just trying to find the centers in that game. Because the thing is, people are talking about, he should have been top 75 of all time, but who was you going to take out? You going to take out Kareem? No. Shaq? No. Who was you going to take out of that equation in order to put him in there?
But then they put Anthony Davis up in there.
He's a center?
No, he's a power forward. He was really more of the 4, and then later on in his career, he played the 5.
Yeah, he
But they liked Anthony Davis more because of his offensive style of play. Not to mention what he had defense, PER, things of that nature.
Yeah, I don't think that. Look, I like Dwight Howard, but who is you going to take out? Who is you going to take off that list? I mean, I'm just being very, very honest. You're not going to take Kareem off that list. You're not going to take Wilt off that list. You're not going to take Patrick Ewing off that list. You're not going to take, let me scroll on down.
Shaq.
You're not going to take Moses Malone off that list. You're not going to take George Mikan off that list. You're not going to take Hakeem Olajuwon or Shaq off that list. You're not going to take Willis Reed off that list. And you're not, and the only exception that I would have made, God rest his soul, this is no knock to him, but the only person that you can really say that you could have took him off that list and put Dwight Howard on there was Bill Walton. That was probably the only person that you could say I could legit take him off that list and put Dwight Howard on there. But outside of him, who was you going to take off and put on there? You're not going to take Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, those guys off there. No, you're not going to take them off and put them back.
You don't believe Dwight Howard was snubbed?
No. Who would you take off that list outside of Bill Walton in order to put him on there? Or are you taking Shaq off that list?
Okay, let me ask you this question. Kyrie Irving, he didn't make the top 75. Did you feel like you agreed with that?
Yes. The thing is, who are you going to take off the list in order to put him on there? Who?
Okay, but here's the thing, champ. Jokic didn't even make it to the top 75, and this is at the time when he already had a couple of MVPs and on his way to winning a championship.
I agree with you. But again, that goes back to this repetitive question that I keep asking both of us. Who are we going to take off that top 75 list in order to put them on there? Somebody has to come off in order for you to go on there. Now, the only
Okay,
person, as far as center is concerned, that I can see taken off of there because their history was so brief. Like I stated, and I'm a fan of him. God rest his soul. Big personality on NBC, big personality in for two of the greatest teams of all time. That being the '77 Portland Trailblazers. He was the cornerstone of that team, man. He was the cornerstone of the '86 Celtics, two of the greatest teams of all time. You can't write the history of the NBA without Bill Walton, the first player in NBA history to win the Sixth Man of the Year and the MVP. That is probably the only person that you can legit say, okay, we could take them off of there and put either Jokic or Dwight Howard on this list. But you're not taking Shaq or any of those other guys. You're not taking George Mikan off this list. You're not taking Bill Russell off this list. You're not taking Willis
but do
Reed
you
and Hakeem
think
Olajuwon.
politics played a role, champ?
No.
Because people would speculate that the reason why Dwight Howard did not make it to the top 75 because of his reputation in terms of Orlando, LA, Houston, and so on, and how they use that to hold it against him. Again, you could make an argument, hey, who are you going to take out that list? Because that list is loaded. But at the same time, we can't deny what he meant in the NBA when he was at the prime of his career in Orlando.
Yeah.
People want to forget that and want to focus on all the controversy and negativity with Dwight. But again, to your point, who can you take off?
And you got to ask yourself, who was he playing during that time as far as competition was concerned at the center position? Who was he playing during that time? During the time when he was playing, he was one of one. When you're talking about dominant centers, Dwight Howard was the dominant center in the league. When you talk about dominant centers, that's when he was in a league where he was the one of one. When you talk about the other players, they were playing against dominant other centers. When you talk about Kareem, he was playing against Robert Parrish and he was playing against Moses Malone, Bob McAdoo, and those guys on his way to the finals and getting into the finals. You talk about Shaquille O'Neal, he was taking on the Defensive Player of the Year in the Dikembe Mutombo. Matter of fact, they had to line up big men and load their roster with big men because the big men that they have would get in foul trouble. So you have to ask yourself this. Yes, you were great. You were good. But who are you taking off that list in order? Patrick Ewing in his prime was playing against Shaquille O'Neal, Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson. Matter of
But
fact,
should
the
that be
Miami
but should that be held against me if I'm Dwight? I mean, hey, don't blame me. I mean, who was in my competition? Andrew Bynum, Pau Gasol, who else that we possibly look at? Others no. Others at his time was no comparable to that. But that shouldn't be held against me. I did bring a special component to the table as block shots, my athleticism, rim protection, and my defense. I won 3 consecutive Defensive Player of the Year awards. Had it not been for my back injury in my final year in Orlando, I would have won it for the 4th consecutive time. And I think the reason why people just want to ignore that with Dwight because they looked at Dwight with his smiling and not taking the basketball seriously in part. Offensively, he was raw. He was limited. I mean, obviously, he wasn't a great free throw shooter. I mean, he had the Georgetown left, right, hook, and right shot. That was really about Dwight Howard at the table. But you can make a valid case, though. Okay, not just center, champ, other players as well, besides the center position. That's the other thing that we also got to pay attention to as well. Now, if you want to make the argument, other players, other power forwards, other small forwards, 2s, 1s, they were better at their positions. They were better as far as individually than the White. Okay, fine, have at it. Just like you said, just like you mentioned with the center part.
Yeah. The only
And people
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Only person I can see really keeping kicking off that list and bringing him on there is Bill Walton. And that's about it. I really can't see
But what about
anybody
Anthony
else
Davis?
really. Mm, like I said,
Because
he was
Anthony
a
Davis
forward.
was selected.
Yeah, he was a forward. But I'm talking about centers. But
I'm not talking about just Anderson. I'm talking about all around positions.
all around position, maybe Anthony Davis. But other than that, who are you going to kick off the list? that's a loaded list. It's kind of like asking, it's kind of like putting somebody on the show with us and asking them who the best podcaster is. You're gonna pick PSP first, Chet probably second. Then this guy's gonna be probably on the outside looking in.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
Come on
I'm
now.
just being real. You're gonna pick PSP first. You're gonna kick Chet probably second, and then and like I said, especially if when all of us is here, and they're gonna say, "Hey, pick the best podcast." You're gonna say PSP. You're gonna say Champ D. You're gonna say BRF, and then whoever's on the outside looking in, they're gonna be left out. That's how it's gonna go. Or either you could, like I said, or either you could switch that list around. You could put PSP, BRF, then Champ. Somebody's gonna. The guy who's on the outside looking in on the three of us is going to be on the outside looking in. That's how it's going to go. I mean, remember during the 50 greatest players of all time, the 50 greatest players of all time, the 50th anniversary team. Remember, Dominique Wilkins was left out. But who was you going to leave off that list? You're going to take off Scottie Pippen in order to put Dominique Wilkins up there. You're going to take off Larry Bird. Who you going to? He finally made it on the top 75. But who are you going to take off at that point? There's a lot of
Damian Lillard.
players. Huh?
Do you realize that Damian Lillard also made the top 75?
Yeah, Damian Lillard also made the top 75.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And do you look at Damian Lillard? Was he a better player at his prime compared to Dwight at his prime?
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. The dominance that Dwight showed was unparalleled. The dominance that he showed was unparalleled.
And the reason why I bring up Kyrie Irving, Champ, because Kyrie Irving, you can make a case for Kyrie. Do you know too many basketball players with that type of handle like Kyrie, with that type of scoring ability? Kyrie, you can make an argument he has the best handles, arguably, of all time.
Yeah, him and Tim Hardaway. Yeah.
And he's not even in the top 75.
Nope. But that just goes to show you how deep that top 75 team is with Tim Hardaway.
But would you take Dame's career or Kyrie's career? Some people would just take Dame's career because he was a better number one option than Kyrie. He was able to say, hey, I went to a couple of Western Conference semifinals and I went to a conference finals back in 2019, and I'm a better shooter long distance than Kyrie. But Kyrie is a better all-around scorer, better ball handler, in my opinion, than Damian Lillard. Defensively, we don't really expect much from them. Neither of them could play defense. But Kyrie was a contributor for the NBA Finals, even though King LeBron James led in every statistical category. But still in all, without Kyrie, will LeBron deliver that championship in Cleveland? No. And when you're talking about the eye test, pure eye test, Kyrie, we can make an argument one of the most, if not the most skilled player. Because he has it in the bag as far as with the shooting, scoring, the hand, the way he score inside the hole as well. It's poetry in motion. I just think reputation played a role with Dwight Howard. I'm not just talking about just Sanders, Champ, because obviously, no, when you look at Sanders, Kareem, Wilt, Bill Russell, Shaq, Olajuwon, Ewing, they were better than Dwight Howard. We understand the center position. I'm talking about other players at their positions. Anthony Davis made it to the top 75. Mm-hmm. So did Damian Lillard. Were they better at their positions? People with Anthony Davis, yes. Because offensive was a better shooter. He was a better passer. He was a better playmaker on the offensive side compared to Dwight Howard. And his defense was great as well with Dwight Howard. But as a number one option, Dwight Howard was able to get to the finals, and the following year, he was able to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Mm-hmm.
He was unquestionably the best big man in the game, even though it was a time not much competition. But still, in all, he was 6'10, 260 with that type of athletic ability. And as well as limited as he was offensively, he was still capable of giving you at least 18 to 20 a night.
Yeah,
But I
absolutely.
say tweener. He's a tweener, in my opinion. Um, because there's been other controversy surrounding Dwight Howard, but I can't completely call him a heel.
Um, I'm just gonna be real. Uh, I'll go tweener, more so babyface more than heel, because I'll say this: he was a guy who mimicked Shaq in a lot of ways. He loved to be liked. He wanted to be liked, and he parlayed that, and that's the role that he played. He wanted to be liked, and he wanted the public to accept him. And there was a lot of controversy in his career. Is he taking ball serious? Is he doing things?
Do you think
Uh,
he's the TO of the NBA?
I mean, he's not the look. People are going to talk about the beef that he had with Stan Van Gundy, but he's not the first big man to have that beef. Remember, Shaq had beef with Stan Van Gundy. He, he,
Yes.
he, he's not the first. So I don't put all of that on him. You know what they used to call Stan Van Gundy, don't you? They used to call him the King of Panic. So yeah, so he's not the first big man to have beef with Stan Van Gundy. Remember, Stan Van Gundy is the reason why Pat Riley took over, because he didn't trust him anymore with the team. It seemed like he had lost the team when
He
it came
did.
to that
Remember,
Miami Heat team.
not just with the Miami Heat team or Orlando Magic team. Remember when he did the interview with the press and he revealed that Dwight wanted him fired and
Yeah,
he heard it from management?
yeah. So he's not the first. The thing is, and look, everybody can't handle the bright lights of Los Angeles. Only a special few can handle those bright lights of Los Angeles. Los Angeles, being a basketball player, especially when you are a center in Los Angeles, being in that environment in Los Angeles, kind of like being the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. The history is there. You're expected to win championships. You're expected to come in and change this thing around quickly. George Mikan, prime example. Dan Kareem, Bob McAdoo, Shaq, Wilt, Pau Gasol, to a certain extent, although he didn't have a Hall of Fame career, Andrew Bynum. You're expected to come in and win championships when you are a big man in Los Angeles, especially when you're teamed up with the late, great Kobe Bryant. And you're paired up with Pau Gasol in an already loaded team. So there's a lot of pressures there. Everybody couldn't handle that.
But
I
we
think the
understand that.
controversies. Go ahead.
We understand because again, who show Jim Buss, and
Yeah,
we all
Jim
know how
Buss.
awful he was. But Jim, we can't disregard how bad Jim Buss was as far as running the show.
Yes,
Don't
Jim
he was there,
Buss.
but
And on
Doc,
top of that, the quest for six. Everybody can't handle that. You was brought in. You got to think about people. Got to think about this, man. And this is no disrespect to Kobe. You were brought in during that time because Kobe Bryant and the Los Angeles Lakers were at the quest for six. They were trying to get that sixth championship for Kobe Bryant, so he can be in the same conversation with Michael. He was still chasing ghosts at that point. So the only thing that he was trying to do, he had already gotten back to back without Shaq at this point, went to 3 straight finals. So the only thing left for you to do is equal the amount of your idol, that being Michael Jordan. Everybody can't handle that spotlight. That spotlight is searing. Then you have mutiny on the team, the high usage rate of Kobe. everybody can't handle the spotlight of that. You can't handle the spotlight of that. So when it came to the Lakers, I did not blame him for leaving. Yes, was I mad as a fan? I wanted to see what what him and Kobe could do, but I don't blame him. Everybody can't handle that light. Those lights in Los Angeles are searing and it's bright and it'll burn you alive. Now, when you got to Houston, that was a lot of things to be desired there. Kevin McHale eventually getting let go, because you didn't work on your game and stuff like that. Rumor had it was on you, if you really want me to be honest with you. It was supposed to be you, James Harden, Jeremy Lin, and Patrick Beverly. Unfortunately, it was not to be. Then you went to Atlanta, and then rumor had it Al Horford didn't want to play with you. So there's a lot of things to be desired in that situation. You got to ask yourself, had it not been for the injuries and things of that nature, what could have been, although he had a Hall of Fame career. And if he was more coachable, because I believe Kevin McHale really wanted to make sure that he had a way in order to do some things, especially when they got James Harden. They saw what James Harden can do. And eventually, he was ousted. When the game had changed, by the time the game had changed, Dwight really was obsolete at that point because, it had changed from you being having a dominant big man, having a dominant little man to, hey, outside shooting in the game being played from the outside in rather than the inside out. But yeah, you have to take some culpability when you fail to evolve your game. So I have to label him as a tweener. But as far as his ability, very, very dominant during his time.
Kendrick Perkins.
Next.
Heel.
Next. Oh, I don't know what to say. Number one, I don't know what to say. It's
horrendous basketball takes.
It's horrendous basketball take. We should remember you for helping bring a championship back to Boston after 25 years. We should remember that forever. And guess what? Kobe did say that he was one of the better defensive centers in the league during that time. Kendrick Perkins was a great basketball player. Had it not been for him getting hurt, I don't think we win that game 7. But Kendrick Perkins was hurt during that time, and guess what? We was able to do some things. But some of the bad takes that he's made,
especially the one about the media with Jokic.
Yeah, and then why get an ibuprofen? You can get a perk, then lead it back. Perk, come on, man. I mean, you and Mrs. Duncan, I feel so bad for you how uncomfortable you made that young lady. A fellow Georgian, by the way. But yeah, Kendrick Perkins, man, I'll label you a tweener just to give you a benefit of the doubt. But some of the bad taste that you had, and what's so funny about the media nowadays? You would think the bad taste that's being taken in the media is because a lot of media personalities are doing these takes. No, it's these former basketball players that are doing these horrible, outlandish takes. And Kendrick Perkins being one of them. I remember you saying that listening to Kendrick Perkins give or take your basketball is like somebody burning your breakfast. So
I said that.
Yes.
That's exactly how I feel every time when it's basketball sport. I'm throwing that shit in garbage. If I had a dog, I wouldn't feed it to my dog.
But yeah, Kendrick, he a tweener, man. You got to stop being so cringy, bro. Made that young lady so uncomfortable. Why have I be perfect for you? Have a perk, then lean back in his seat like he ate. Like, bro, please go have several seats, my friend.
Look, man, his bad basketball takes, it piggybacks. Because remember what Denzel Washington said about, hey, people who haven't played sports are talking about it. Okay, Denzel, by that logic, then we should go by people who've been there and played it. So therefore, we should go by what Kendrick Perkins has to say. And needless to say, when it comes to his sports takes, basura. So I'm not listening to Kendrick Perkins and what he has to say. I mean, his takes are just ridiculous. That's all I'm going to say. That's the thing I can say about Kendrick at this particular point. Last one, LeVar Ball.
Babyface.
People will say tweener, but I think babyface because again, how he was able to help out kids, be a marketer, be a brand. You know, he was trying to do something to live the life for his 3 kids. You know, obviously he's dealing with some health issues, and God bless him. Obviously, his wife was going through what was the situation that was going through during the time while I was playing basketball at UCLA, champ?
I forget. I forget. I don't want to lie on the air. I don't remember.
I'll look it up. But I say babyface. I mean, look, he was still there for Leangelo when Leangelo. Remember, he and a couple of players they were in China. They took something that didn't belong to him. I think it was like some Louis Vuitton glasses.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, yeah, him and the president got him out of jail.
He didn't thank the president, but that's a story for
I,
another day.
I did not want you to bring that up, but him and the
I
president.
I gotta go by the truth. I gotta go by the
Yeah,
truth. I
him
gotta
and
go
the
by the
president
truth.
got him and the president got him out of jail, which I wouldn't look. I wouldn't have either, but that's gonna be the president got him out of jail. But uh, yeah, I mean that was a controversial moment. Look, I'm gonna just be real, man. This
And also, let's not forget Christine Leahy. Remember how the way she was criticizing her on the show, and then LeVar Ball when he was on the herd with Colin Cowherd.
yeah,
Look, he was being rude and disrespectful to Christine Leahy for a legitimate reason because of how the way you were criticizing him, Christine Leahy, as a father. It had nothing to do with the fact that you were a, which even Jamel Hill came to LeVar Ball. And also the last part, going back to Whitlock. I don't think I can comment about
I don't know. Look, I'm gonna just be real, man.
look, and you talk shit about Jason Whitlock, you're a number one fan of mine.
But I'm gonna just be real. I ain't got no problem with a father telling his sons that he can do anything and brag on them in the media. Why? My father did the same damn thing with me. He made me believe that I could do anything. If it wasn't for my father, I wouldn't be talking about sports. I wouldn't have graduated college. I wouldn't have joined the army. I wouldn't have went to war. I wouldn't have did none of the stuff that I did in my lifetime. So I thank my father. Well, I thank my father in heaven for blessing me with a father on earth that can believe it. I think there's a bad stigma when it comes to fathers at a certain point. It's okay for your mom to take you up under her wing and do all this stuff, but when your father comes out and he's that strong figure and he believes in everything that you do and teaching you the right way. And these kids ain't out here, with the exception of Jello, none of them kids ain't out there getting in trouble. You don't see them in a lot of bull job in the news or any of that. And he tried to build his own brand and build their own brand. Guess what? If anybody else would have all 3 of his children in the NBA, guess what? They'd be talking about him forever. We'd be talking about him forever. So guess what? I don't have no problem with a father telling his son that he can do anything. The reason my name is Champ, I will say it live on television. The reason my name was Champ is my father told me you will always be a champion in your life. So that is why I named you that. Because when you are going through a tough time in your life, I want you to remember the name that I gave you. You are a champ, not a chump. That's what my father told me. So guess what? I'm gonna just be real. Whenever a strong black father, I'm gonna go there too. By the way, I hate going there, but I'm gonna just say it. Whenever a strong black father tell his black son that he can do any damn thing that he can put his mind to, I ain't got no problem with that. And if anybody else would have had 3 kids in the NBA, man, and two of them being great at what they do, especially
Melo and
Melo and
Wonka.
and especially Melo and Lonzo, and then he had a son with a rap contract. Whenever you raise 3 kids and 3 boys, especially this day and age right about now where there's so much scrutiny out there, guess what, man? I have no problem with that. It seems like a lot of our fathers, which I would say get criticized because they want their sons to do anything, because they prop their sons up and they tell them they can do anything. When anybody else tell their kids that they can do anything, then guess what? We ain't got no problem with that. But when Deion goes out into the media and tell him, I believe my son can do anything, it's a problem. When LeVar Ball went out there and said, I believe my son can do anything, that's a problem. But when anybody else says something, then, oh my God, look how that father props his son up.
But as you always tell me, champ, double standards. And unfortunately, that's just how it is nowadays. Not just nowadays, has it always been.
Yeah.
So sadly, it is what it is. But with LeVar Ball, I do like him a lot. He's funny. He has big personality. Though. I remember when he was on WWE Raw with Lonzo and LaMelo.
He took his shirt off and did. Yeah, yes. Like I said, man, look, he marketed. He made a way for his kids, man. He took
Which was brilliant on his part. He knows how to market. And look, same thing. Look, we commend LeBron, the father. We commend a lot of people who are fathers. So let's keep the same energy. Now, was he always perfect? No, he wasn't. But at the same time, he's just trying to do what's best, what he can for himself and for his kids to give him a better life than what he had.
Yeah.
And look, my father, I don't really have that much of a relationship with him, but hey, I'm quite sure he does love me. Sometimes he was always tough and strong on. But I just appreciate, the things that he did, even though he and my mom, they were going through their problems, which led to a divorce and everything. But hey, I appreciate what my father did for me, and I also appreciate what my stepfather did. Sometimes you do need that strong authoritative figure that can hold you accountable, toughen you up. At the same time, you needed someone who can give you a pat on the back, who can give you life and advice and just everything.
Yeah, man. Like I said, man, if it weren't for my father, man, well, my heavenly father first, and then him putting a father like, the great Mr. Pryor on this earth, man, I wouldn't be sitting here right now, man. I wouldn't have made it through a war. I used to call my father every day when I was over there, man. Well, damn near every day when I could, in order to make sure he was all right. Give me words of encouragement. My father texts me every single morning. So, man, have a good day. The day's good. The day's young. Send you some motivation, man. That's the thing. That's what fathers do, man. Every young man, especially when you're a black man, needs that type of leadership in your life. My dad was real no nonsense. And I know that was especially hard for him considering that he had a very, very playful child. I know that was especially hard, him being very, very no nonsense, considering that he had a very, very playful child who was very, very reckless, especially considering the fact I would jump off rules and do stupid shit all the time. I was kind of reckless with my body at a young age. He had to get on me he had to climb on me a couple times. But yeah, everybody needs that strong father in their life. And I'm gonna just be real, man. I ain't got no problem with you being that strong figure. If you ever notice, it's not just the fathers it's not just the fathers. Whenever you have a strong-minded coach or father figure, they get criticized. Remember John Thompson, he got criticized when he was at Georgetown. Hoya Paranoia, that's where that came from. Hoya Paranoia, that's where that came. Remember Nolan Richardson, he got criticized. Why you like this? Why are you running your program like this? Whenever these big, strong personalities that are like black father figures that are out in the media like that, guess what? They get criticized. Remember how, and look, people talk about Shedeur Sanders. Remember how Barry Sanders was when it came, Barry Sanders' dad was when it came to the media?
Mm-hmm.
He snuffed his nose up at the media a lot because they criticized him for not always praising Barry Sanders. And he told them why. But yeah, whenever a lot of fathers from our communities get on television and stuff like that, they're often criticized for being too strong. You're too brash. You're too this. How can you say this about yourself? Remember, look, I'll give you another example. Although he's a girl dad, King Richard. King Richard, Serena Williams' dad. Serena and Venus Williams' dad. He got criticized in his lifetime by the media for instilling confidence in his girl. So it's always the strong father figures that get criticized the most. Unfortunately, they just so happen to be from our community, by the way. But I digress.
Which is why you kind of get annoyed with it because they're so quick to bring up race.
Hey man, look, everybody's so quick to kind of dismiss. Everybody wants to talk about why does it have to be about race when it comes to success. Keep that same energy when we're talking about crime.
Well, they ain't gonna do that.
Keep that
But
same,
LeVar Ball, baby,
yeah. Keep that
you
same
know they
energy
ain't gonna
when we
do that,
talking
champ.
about. I know that, but I'm gonna say,
know,
if you want it, if you
I
don't
know,
want it
I
to be
know
about
you
race,
right on that.
when it comes up, when you don't want it to be the day, okay, if you don't want it to be about race when it comes to success, why does it have to be about race? Cool. But keep that same energy when it comes to talking about crime.
Interesting. But unfortunately, you can't do what the white men do and think you can get away with it, and that's reality. But let's continue on, champ. Favorite Hornswoggle moment? Not unequivocally, Mr. McMahon, illegitimate child.
You talk about racism. You talk about racism. Oh, that was nasty.
The reason why is because of Triple H's reaction when he's pointing the finger and laughing. I'm like, look, Hornswoggle. I cannot say the other term what Jim Ross used to call him. I think which term I'm not going to use that one, but him doing the Frog Star flashes,
That's the tadpole.
him doing the frog splashes, or when he joined DX. Or when he joined DX, let's not forget when he joined DX with him, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H. Or when he won the title, or him and Miss Piggy. Remember the situation with him and Miss Piggy?
I loved Hornswoggle, man. He was entertaining, and I love to see him, especially when him and Little Boogie Man went head up. That was the funniest part. I loved every time he did the tadpole splash, man. JBL unfortunately gave him that name, the tadpole splash. So I love that, man. That was amazing. That was amazing, and I loved every minute of seeing Hornswoggle on the on WWE programming. I love when he impersonated Shawn Michaels when he had a DX T-shirt on, and he said, and never forget Triple H told him, "You go back there, take that stuff off before he watches the TV, because that's gimmick infringement. That's gimmick infringement." So yeah, man, there's a lot of stuff that Hornswoggle did that was entertaining, and it when you see the diversity on the screen, not just him, but with Zach Gowen as well, when you saw the dream come true moments for these young men, that was something to behold, man. And I'm glad that we got a chance to see it. You know, it's something about something that you don't normally see on your television screen. Everybody knows the norm, the 6'5", 300-pound wrestler. But when you see someone like Hornswoggle or Zach Gowen, somebody like that end up on the TV screen, that's something to behold, man. And I loved every minute of seeing them on television, especially when he used to hide up under the ring.
I do too. And of course, last but not least, to finish the show, favorite Monica track. Angel of Mine, The Boy Is Mine. And although she was featured in the song, Slow Jam with Usher.
Yeah.
And then So Gone. And then Keisha Cole, Trust. Monica has a beautiful voice. I mean, she was definitely one of the prominent R&B singers, female R&B singers back in the 90s, early thousands. I loved her work, man. But yeah, Monica and Brandy, that was the boys of mine, especially with the music video. Your thoughts, big fella?
Before you walk out my life,
Mm-hmm.
why I love you so much. The boy is mine. For you, I will. I will cross the ocean. Yeah, I suck, but still. But that was I remember standing outside of elementary school singing that. You know, y'all remember the whole reels, you know, them old gangster movies of, you know, kids standing outside singing. Yeah, I was one of those kids. So seeing that was crazy. Um I know one of the funniest songs. I know one of the funniest songs. You should have known better. I love that song. You know, with Young Buck, with Young Buck in the video. I know one of the more funniest songs that she made was Sideline. That was probably one of the. When I want a good laugh, I go and listen to Monica's song Sideline because that was probably the funniest song that she ever made. That was probably one of the. It was because you know Monica always had this little swagger to her, but when she came out with that one, that was something to behold. Be honest with you. Oh man, I love that man. The Boy's Mind was that was epic because much like the console wars, you know, much like Britney and Christina, we often put them unknowingly, we often put them against each other, and to see them finally on a song together, singing with each other was something to behold. It's kind of like seeing Sega and Super Nintendo making a game together back in them days. Kind of like seeing Britney and Christina making a record together. Kind of like seeing the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC uh, making a song together. Because, like I stated, although you may have liked both of them, there's always a crowd. Well, do you like them? Do you like him or her? Or do you like her or her? It was always that crowd. We always, even to this day, we always, I call those talks back then the origin of GOAT talks, the console wars and all of that, because we always had those discussions back then. But Monica, definitely a big part of my childhood. And, you know, we will never forget those sandals, Monica. We would never forget the sandals. So we will never forget that. But, you know, for you, I will, you know, just to name a few. But the boy's mind probably is a matter of fact, I never forget Nas and God Rest His Soul Prodigy remixed that song, you know, and uh, you know, put it on like a Scarface type of tune. I like the way they did that. That was pretty cool too.
Yes, sir, it was. But I also like the So Gone with the remixes with Snoop and Nate Dogg, rest his soul.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Definitely. Well, that concludes the rest of the Sports PSP podcast. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it with BRF, but we will see if we can get BRF on the show. It's always better when he's on the Sports PSP podcast. And also, please go check him out on the Undisputed Go podcast. I'm quite sure there's going to be a new episode on Sunday or Monday night, champ.
Yeah.
He's going to do some college football recaps, do some NFL recaps. I'm quite sure he's going to discuss some of the stuff regarding the NBA, regarding the gambling thing, and much more. But big fella, tell him where to follow you at, man.
Number one, congratulations, 150K. As always, been a privilege and honor and a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor to be on the show every single Friday. I call it the highlight of Friday nights for a reason because I always said, man, being on the show was always the highlight of the day. Uh, I'm proud of you, bro. Keep doing
Thank
what
you.
you're doing. And look, man, keep doing what you're doing, man. Man, every time I see another follower on here, I'm clapping. So I'm darn proud of you, man. You're my brother, and I'm damn proud of you, man. Salute to everybody. Shout out to Columbus, Georgia. Always know that hold your family close. We're in the holiday season, and understand the assignment of being a family member. Understand the assignment of being a brother, understand the assignment of being a father, a son, and everything of that nature, especially around these times. So everybody understand the assignment. That's my message for the day. I'm not gonna say follow me here, follow me there. My message for the day is follow the Sports PSP podcast if you're not following already, and understand the assignment when it comes to your family.
Please go follow the big fella, Undisputed World Champ. Check him out on Instagram, TikTok. Want to make sure that the big fella keeps on growing and growing with his pod. Also, shout out to Casual. Shout out to Brand from the Block, Kenny, Trent with his podcast, Harrison, Broad, Roundup, everyone else, man. Also, go shout out Jones for Sports.
Yes.
Fun Football Podcast. Also, the podcast that Undisputed World Champ was recently on. Shout out to it as
First
well.
30.
Yeah, First and 30. Man, a lot of great content creators, man. A lot of great podcasters, man. And also go shout out from Joey from the Inquisitive Podcast. Love to be
Yes.
back on the podcast. Hopefully, he can try to get Undisputed World Champ on the podcast at some point in time. Eventually, that will happen. But always a pleasure being on the pod, y'all. New episodes of the Sports PSP Pod every Friday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube and Facebook. And again, we're going to keep on growing. And who knows, we may try to add more, whether if it's Instagram, TikTok, or X, formerly known as Twitter. We're going to try to give y'all a show. But more importantly, please stay safe. You know, Halloween is almost coming. Holiday season is approaching. Just try to enjoy some football, try to enjoy some basketball, be around friends and family. Also, too, on an important note, shout out to our military men and women who fight every single day for our country, making sure that we are safe. Also, thank a lot of people, a lot of hard workers. Doesn't matter whether if you're a bus driver, doesn't matter if you're a taxi driver, whether you're a cook or a chef, you are something. Don't just think because of the job that you have, you're nothing. And we appreciate your services as well. But we is out.